A new day for collecting fishes in Minecraft. And yeah, also today, Perez got his 2-year contract with Red Bull. So he will be staying in Red Bull. No, that's something. And yeah. And also some videos I will be seeing today will be Ocon about the Ocon leaving Alpine. And what that will maybe Imran Khan. I wonder if this is. Let's see, what does that actually mean? I mean, the former Pakistan leader. They have the name Khan. Let's see. The fuck is Khan? Khan Sushi. Fuck is Khan? Okay, now I somewhat know, but still I don't know. Let's. Well, that will be a mystery. And yeah, how many fishes do we have now? Fucking so many cats. Okay, if I remember right, it should be 1,309 maybe? Yep, 1,309. No, fucking 2,700. So if we get 41 fishes, we halt there. Then it's just the rest left. So that will be fun. Oh, already a good start. One more fish for the collection. And it's 36 I can take per each time. Oh, one more. Man, this is good stuff. See, 36 and we need 41. So I'll need at least do it 2 times with 36. Then I'll probably be over 1,350. But while I'm swimming around, we will have at least the first video from Aidan Millward, I think. Yeah, must be that. Was it Monaco or not? Opinion on Esteban Ocon leaving Alpine. And I mean, it looked really good. Somewhat like it is the race, the Monaco race that he got 5 from. But I feel like that was just that. I mean, I feel like, if you've seen the history of Ocon, how he drives, I mean, like with Alonso, Now he's with Gasly. It's like it's no news that he's driving bad against his teammate. And so the Monaco is just maybe like, okay, this was the last time. You will not be in this team anymore. So you can say the Monaco, or maybe this was maybe already planned, but Monaco was like, okay, we're going out with this public. No more hiding from the truth, Ocon. We don't want you anymore. And that's also something maybe depressing for him or funny for everyone else, that Esteban Ocon get fired before Gasly even got fired. And Gasly is the one that arrived last year. So some people didn't believe in Ocon. So let's see what fuck me, what is his name? Yeah, it is Aidan Millward. Fuck me. Okay. Had a good start, but god damn it, no more fishes.
Now, Tuesdays are usually get stuff done types of days, or get other stuff done.
Why are you a photo of Williams? Australian. Austria. What do you say? Why not have a photo of Monaco when they are getting 2 points?
Types of days. Admin, talking to other people, other forms of work that I need to do, or just getting house stuff done. But given I've got some other cool stuff going on for videos with something really cool coming up, and if I'm saying that it's really cool, then it must be cool, because how often do I collab with others? That's right, never. I thought I'd do this today, and then that way you've got more content. The "that's right, never" there sounded a little bit John Oliver-esque, didn't it? And I do actually have some other stuff, non-racing stuff written that is basically, but we have John Oliver at home, that I do want to whack on another channel, but I don't know how to approach
new
it
fish
yet.
for the collection.
But anyway, since we've got some Formula 1 news happening within the last 24 hours, I thought I would sit down, talk about it, give some opinions and all that good stuff. The sort of opinion videos that you've come to know and love from this channel. At least I hope you like them. But it appears that Esteban Ocon...
Yeah, I would say I like them more. Because... I mean, the other videos he does, it's like information of the information, and hardly you remember everything. Oh my god, but it's still better than the race information about how a car works. It's like so much information, and for me, I don't understand anything what they say. And I can just speak, everything can be just a big lie. But I don't know better, so it could be true. But yeah, opinion stuff is more fun.
has been sacked.
One more fish.
Clickbait the hell out of all of this. Okay.
Before Gasly, this is so fucking funny.
Sacked is not the operative word, because sacked would imply that he's gone already. Essentially, it's what happened
Maybe he actually is. Who knows?
to Jeremy Clarkson. They're not renewing the contract. But while Alpine has said there would be consequences following what happened at the Monaco Grand Prix...
This I really hope. If he do something more bad, someone else maybe can try to drive. Maybe Mick Schumacher, hopefully. Could be fun. I mean, let's see my stuff. Yeah, det är my fin eller nice fuck driver thinking. Here I have. I mean, it will be so perfect. Mick Schumacher is already in Alpine driving. I don't know what is driving, but something in Alpine. And then just promote him to Formula 1. Then he can maybe do the greatest comeback ever and bring back Schumacher name into Formula 1. And then, I mean, this is maybe somewhat copium, but man, Drugovich into Formula 1 would be so amazing for me. And who knows, making he will maybe be more perfect this year, celebrating at the Senna with driver from Brazil with the Drugovich. But yeah, missed opportunity. And this is also, if Ocon will stay in Formula 1, this is probably Haas is probably the only team he will be in. And Kevin Magnusson, Jürgen Joe, Bottas. Oh, who more? Oh, Logan Sargent. I believe will be out. Or I think he will be out. First is Logan Sargent 100%. Then if Haas want Ocon, and Oliver Bermer is also taking a seat there, then Kevin Magnusson is out of Haas. And that is if Carlos Sainz doesn't take the Audi deal. Then Ocon maybe will get here. But if Carlos Sainz get here, Ocon will 100% be here. If they want to remove Kevin Magnusson, and I believe they should remove him. I mean, if they remove Mick Schumacher because he crashes, then you should remove Kevin Magnusson for the same reason. What more? Yeah, Ricciardo will stay. Man, I don't know. That's what I think Red Bull make it so hard. They talk so much about they want Leon Lawson in Formula 1. And I don't know, this is the last year. They have to find a place for him. But I don't feel like, why would you wanna remove Ricciardo or Tsunoda? And I don't think Tsunoda want to leave another team. And I believe more he will just stay in AlphaTauri. And hopefully next year, no, what do you say? The year after next year. Let's all find something else to do so Tsunoda can join with Honda to Aston Martin. That would be amazing. But yeah, let's continue.
A couple of weekends ago, the reason for him being left out in the cold this early in the season apparently had nothing to do with any of that. So, a recap. Ocon tried to throw his car up the inside of Pierre Gasly at Portier Corner, the corner before the tunnel at Monaco for those that aren't clued up on corner names, and ended up taking himself out of the race before the race was ultimately red flagged in the wake of the Perez, Magnussen, Hulkenberg pileup at Beau Rivage / Massanelli.
That didn't give any points for Kevin Magnussen, so he can still drive at least until the race happen. Then he maybe have got 2 more points and will have a race ban for what race will happen after this? Let's see, where do we have? Spain. So yeah, or he will still not get any points and we can still drive.
Climb up the hill after turn 1. Ocon's car was the only one of the two that was eliminated. It could have easily have been both cars, but somehow the other Alpine of Gasly got away with it. And even with the race under red flag, Ocon couldn't take the restart because the car couldn't be fixed in time. So 4 cars didn't take the restart, leaving 16 to go again. But you can see why a lot of people thought it would be the final straw for the Frenchman, because since he joined the F1 grid in 2016 with Manor, albeit only for a handful of races, this hasn't been the first time that he's made contact with another car that's, well, painted the same colour as his. In 2017, at Baku, he collided...
I mean, that's something that his history with crashes with other drivers is mostly... Okay, I don't know if mostly, but most of the times you think of him crashing with another driver is his teammate.
With Perez at the restart of the race. That same year, he wiped his front wing off, tagging Perez at the Belgian Grand Prix on the way down to Eau Rouge. In 2018, at Singapore, he and Perez collided again. In 2022 at Brazil, he forced Alonso wide at turn 4, and that caused Alonso to break traction and hit him. And in that same race, Alonso hit Ocon and lost his front wing. Then last year, in Australia, it was Gasly and Ocon that came a cropper during whatever that...
This can maybe be blamed by Gasly. But yeah, Ocon have a somewhat history about crashing into his teammates.
NASCAR-style carnage-laden restart of a race was. Now, it has to be said here that I've gone through and watched every single one of those collisions to see what was what, because some of them happened a few years ago, you might forget what happened. And after looking through every single one of those collisions that Sky Sports did a handy little compilation of, I actually think only 2 of those are Ocon's fault. The collision with Alonso, or forcing Alonso wide at turn 4 into Lagos, and the one...
Oh, this I would say doesn't help Ocon. His hard but fair driving. It's like his so unnecessary fucking weird way to drive your own teammate. It's like, I'm not like... At least, I don't know how we've been driving against Gasly, but you clearly saw it against Alonso. It's like, who's your worst enemy? Is Alonso really the one you should fight against? Or why do you drive like that? You ruin his race and yours, and you let people through.
At Monaco this year, all the others, the other driver had a predominant part to play in that collision. As Martin Brundle would say, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So if only 2 of those collisions are actually his fault, why are people up in arms about Ocon and his collisions with other drivers? Maybe it's because of who that driver is? Okay, let me try to explain. Certain drivers seem to have this thing where they can seemingly get away with stuff because of who they are. Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Norris, Mick Schumacher. Basically, lots of people like that driver, so if they do something dodgy, you're going to have legions of fans come out and defend them until the bitter end. Such is the way the fan bases are working in Formula 1 these days.
I mean, that's just facts. Ocon doesn't bring any good vibes.
You might even get other fan bases jumping in to defend those drivers. The popular kids in school, as it were. But for drivers like Ocon, the attitude...
Or people that are likeable. Could also be that.
...attitude is slightly different.
I mean, driving... Hard driving against Alonso doesn't make you in the... nice kids this year.
In a collision, it's always, oh, it's him that's at fault. He always crashes into other teammates. It's always his fault. But I guess there's also that incident that Ocon had with Verstappen about 5 years ago. That...
I mean, that doesn't help him either in his history in Formula 1. That was also an unnecessary thing. Oh, you can get past Verstappen and drive against him. Yeah, but why? And then you ruin his race. So unnecessary.
Kind of adds fuel to the fire, because Ocon did this thing to a incredibly popular driver, and that's just
ruined his race also.
People the ammunition to lob him to the wolves every time he does something.
Just imagine the perfect online business you can start
in
2024. what would that look like? Okay,
Free
fantasize
training.
with me here for a second.
Listen
Now I'm going to reveal what I
deeply.
believe to be the most important thing you have to have here at number 10. But first, you have to be able to do it from anywhere and part-time. That way you can do it on top of
One
any
more
other
fish.
commitments
No,
you
two
currently
more
have,
fishes
such as
for the
family,
collection.
work, hobbies, and whatnot.
Yep.
On top of that, there'd be no website you have to build, so you
No
don't have to learn that
website.
skill.
What?
There'd be no employees you have to hire. Wouldn't that be great? There'd be no inventory to purchase,
Man,
manage, and
amazing.
ultimately ship to customers. But you do want customers, right? But you don't want customer support. You don't want to have to deal with their problems. There'd be no degree required, meaning people of any education can do
True.
it. There'd be a low investment to get started. Wouldn't that be great? But you want high earnings potential because we all want to make a lot of
Of
money.
course.
And then the last one, which is what most businesses do not have, okay? But it's the most important one if you want to make money. That is,
Man, can you have a better camera? Or film it better if you wanted to sell it, but sell it.
hungry customers. And there is one business model in particular that satisfies each and every one of these requirements for the perfect online business in 2024. And it is called, I'm going to put it up on the screen here, called Amazon Digital Publishing, okay? You may or may not have heard of this before. It's okay. We'll get to that in a second. And I've created what I believe to be the best video training I've ever put together on this topic. It took me over 2 months to create this video. You can watch it just by clicking somewhere around this video or beneath this video. You'll get instant access to it.
How
And I'm
about
gonna walk you
no?
through the 4 steps on how you can get started with the best business to start in 2024, in my opinion, completely for free. Now, there is an opportunity at the
For free. For one day. Then you need to pay.
end of the video to get more of our help and work with us, but that is completely optional. The free training walks you through how to do it yourself for free, okay? And on
Yeah.
top
Send us money and then you maybe get money.
of that, just for watching the video, you're also going to get our Wall Street Journal best-selling book. It's called The Freedom Shortcut.
Of course.
It basically shows you how to do this in the form of a book. And it currently costs $11 to $12 on Amazon. You're going to get the ebook version completely for free. That's on top of the 60-minute video presentation that walks you through how to do it step by step. Now, this is something I've been doing myself for more than 5 years. It allowed me to quit my job. I've never worked a
5 years and you made this ad. Oh my god. The fuck have you been doing? And that's sad.
job since, and we've also helped hundreds and thousands of people do this themselves and make additional supplemental and sometimes even full-time income doing this. And we do that through our company called publishing.com. So I do it a little bit on the side myself, but now our focus is teaching others how to do this themselves because we just believe in how powerful and impactful this
believer.
can be for the right person. So if you want to learn more exactly
I'm
about
a
how this
Mercedes
works,
fan.
just click the link beneath this video or somewhere around this video and you'll get access to the greatest free training I have ever created
The
on this
greatest
topic,
of all time.
what I believe to
Lewis
be the
Hamilton.
perfect online business to start in 2024.
Flopping
so to learn more,
around
just
in
click
the
beneath or somewhere
Mercedes.
around this video and I will see you inside of the free training right now. All right, see ya.
Fucking 3 minutes and 14 seconds. For a scam ad. And oh my god, the fucking clock stuff. I hate these ads. Wow. Oh, Trident. House of the Dragon ad. Dune ad.
I call this place home.
No free Trident. Boring.
Another example of it is Mick Schumacher. If Kevin Magnussen or Nico Hulkenberg broke 2 cars in half in one season, people would be demanding those 2 lose their seats and somebody else should get it instead because those 2 are a liability.
True.
But because it's a driver lots of people like, it's, well, oh, he's just doing his best. Now,
Mick Schumacher is likable, so that helped a lot. So, come on. Alpine, promote him into the car and make him the comeback be real.
This isn't a dig at the drivers, it's a dig at the attitudes that some people have based on who they like and don't like. Remember, just because somebody has criticised something a driver has done, it doesn't mean that they hate that driver. There's no need to be so sensitive. But where you can see things going wrong for Ocon is his performances versus every single one of the teammates he's had since 2017, his first full season. I've dug through the stats, but I'll go by full seasons given that he didn't do that many races in 2016. RacingYears.com is a great little website for all of this stuff if you ever want to do some comparisons for yourself. However, some of the stats don't make sense, at least to me anyway, because if you cross-reference them with Wikipedia's result sheets, it's a little bit all over the place. But it's still quite interesting because it gives you the percentages for the drivers. So this guy has a 48% success rate against this particular teammate in this particular year, and so on and so forth. If you want to go and have a look at it, I'll leave a link in the description. In 2017, Perez scored 100 points to Ocon's 87. In 2018, Perez had 62 points and Ocon 49, but Perez finished 8th.
And this, I would say, this is a rigged year against Alonso. He should have easily got more points.
And Ocon was 12th, with Ocon not beating Perez on track at all over the 2018 season. In 2019, he wasn't on the grid, but he was back for 2020 and got utterly demolished by Ricciardo. In 2021, he was joined by Alonso and they were quite evenly matched, with Ocon even taking a win at the chaotic Hungarian Grand Prix.
Thanks to Alonso. And how did Ocon give that nice stuff back? By trying to ruin Alonso's race every time after that.
In 2022, Ocon actually beat Alonso over the course of the season, but for 2023, he was beaten by new teammate Gasly. So in all, since 2017, Ocon has only beaten his teammate once, 2022.
And that was a rigged year.
Against Alonso, which, actually, that's a pretty good achievement. You've beaten Fernando Alonso. That's not an easy thing to do, but you've had 7 seasons.
Not the... If every race the car for Alonso breaks down, wouldn't that be called easy? Is the thing to do. You only need 1 point and then you've beaten Alonso. Fuck do you mean? It can be easy.
Seasons in Formula 1 and you've only beaten one of your teammates. People are going to start looking at that. So that can explain some criticism. With teams wanting the returns on the constructors' payouts, the teammates need to be regularly beating each other and getting the maximum returns on the points, finishing close together if need be. If one driver is miles ahead, then they're going to be wondering why this other guy is hanging around.
Like
and that might be why Alpine has now taken the decision to go, we might need to think about somebody else getting in here. In French. Now Alpine, much like the other teams, has got drivers waiting in the wings. Jack Doohan is currently the favourite to come in and replace him.
No, that's just copium. Why him? He didn't do a good Formula 2. Let's see. What did he do in Formula 2? Go. Let's see. Jack Doohan. Okay, he did somewhat good. 168. Let's see, did he... I think it's a win. Okay, he got 2 wins. Did he? Huh. Let's see, or wait, I don't see everything. Did he really get 3 wins? What the fuck? Okay, sure. Let's see. We go there and then we Here we have it. Here we have the. Oh shit! I need to go to that back, and there we have it. I guess 3 wins, but everything else doesn't look so good. That you can say maybe look good. Okay, go back to the video.
On as he steps up through the career ladder and would add to the 2 existing Australian drivers on the grid, assuming that Ricciardo is still around next year, as he too is under fire at the minute, being beaten by Tsunoda. Doohan was 3rd in Formula 2 last year, so he has the experience required. Meanwhile, it's also up in the air where Ocon could go after this season. Sky Sports says the most likely destination is Haas, but with drivers like Ollie Behrman also in contention because of his Ferrari connections and Ferrari's connections with Haas, it might end up being something that doesn't happen. It will depend on whether Magnussen stays at the team. There's
Probably
also
not.
Audi that might become a team that he drives for, but with them already signing up Hülkenberg for 2026, it will then depend on what they do next. Does Audi keep Bottas for 2025 and beyond, Zhou for 2025 and beyond, or does Sainz slot in there for 2026 as per the rumours? But at the same time, Gasly is also out of contract, but the rumours are that Alpine wants to lock Gasly in for a bit longer. But at the same time, there's Mick Schumacher, currently with the World Endurance.
Mick Schumacher. Please, Alpine, pick him. Before fucking
Endurance team, Alpine's World Endurance team that is. So there are fans out there hoping that they keep neither of the 2 French drivers on and instead go for Mick and Jack. Both.
No, Jack Doohan, he can still be the 3rd wheel and have Gasly and Mick Schumacher.
Sons of ex-racers too, as Jack Doohan is the son of Mick Doohan, the 500cc motorcycle racer and 5-time champion. Not only are they both sons of racers, they're both sons of people called Michael. That'll be something the stats people try to shoehorn into something. So what if there are no drives in Formula 1? Well, there is Alpine's World Endurance program. They are racing the World Endurance Championship. They're going to Le Mans this year. Mick's actually racing at Le Mans this year, so maybe a straight swap. Ocon for Mick. I mean, that would keep the fans happy at least, because they want Mick back in, because son of Schumacher, rose-tinted goggles, nostalgia, etc, etc, etc.
Yeah, I mean, there's a video that someone have done when you can see Max Verstappen and Mick Schumacher fighting each other, and it looked like another race when Jos Verstappen and Michael Schumacher was fighting, and that's, man, I want to see that again. Could be so amazing.
Etc. But there is also Formula E, and maybe that's something to look into once Formula E has its silly season. If it does have a silly season, I don't know. I haven't watched Formula E this year because it's behind another bastard paywall. But at the same time, all of this adds to the continuous shuffling around that is currently happening at Enstone. The team is currently 9th in the constructors' standings, having finished 4th in 2022 and 6th in 2023. And Alpine says that it is committed to getting back to the front of the grid. On the 4th of March 2024, Alpine announced that Joe Burnell would be the new technical director, David Wheater would be the technical director of aerodynamics, and Kieran Pilbeam would be the technical director of performance. They would, in turn, report to team principal Bruno Famin, or Faman, I think that's how it's pronounced, and this was done with immediate effect. Now, since the restructuring, things have looked up slightly for the team, with Ocon scoring at Miami and Gasly getting a point in Monaco, but things still do look a tiny bit off. The only thing that Ocon can do now is basically become a good advert for himself. Score as much as possible, help Alpine out while he still can, and maybe do enough to impress another team. But with so many other drivers waiting to come in or back, depending on who you like and stuff, that might be tricky. Because you've also got Carlos Sainz out of a ride at the end of the year because Hamilton's coming in to replace him at Ferrari, and Sainz is going to be impressing people. And because Sainz is a better driver than Ocon, I mean, that's my opinion, you can agree or disagree at your leisure, people are going to want to take a good look at Sainz more than Ocon because Sainz can deliver. Does say something though, because Ocon is managed in part by Toto Wolff, And if Toto isn't thinking replace Hamilton with Ocon, then that might be quite telling. Maybe because he's that intent on replacing Hamilton with Verstappen, I don't know. And Sky Sports did say that if it was going to happen, it would have probably happened by now, that once Hamilton had said, right, I'm off to Ferrari, that they said, okay, well, I'm bringing in my guy. Hey, here's Esteban Ocon. He's going to drive for Mercedes next year. And Ocon...
I mean, that shows so much how much Toto Wolff want to have Esteban Ocon in the team.
Was once a development driver and test driver and simulator driver, whatever you want to call him, for Mercedes in that year off he had in 2019. But, as a wise man once said, anything can happen in Formula 1, and it usually does. So maybe if Ocon drives like a god for the rest of the year, he might end up in that Mercedes seat alongside Russell. So will it be enough for Ocon to be that advert for himself and get himself into a good seat or ish seat for 2025 and beyond? I don't know, because like I say, Sainz is hovering around, and where Sainz goes might depend on what happens to Ocon, but
true.
Answers on a postcard down in the comments, I guess. So then, this has been a thing that's happened in the world of Formula 1 recently, and this has been my opinion on that thing. I would do the like this thing, but that thing has run its course for a bit, so I won't bother. I might bring it back at a certain point. But for real though, if you did think I made some good points in this video, then do like this video so I know I did a good job and it got you thinking. And for more stuff from this channel, whether that's the deep dives through the motorsport history books or the opinion pieces like the one you've just watched and or listened to, then the subscribe button is there, along with links in the description to Discord and socials if you want to connect at that level. Also, down in the description is Patreon. And a massive thanks to the people on your screen that support via that medium. And if you want to join in with supporting at a more personal level, then the link is where I just said it was. There's also the F1 store link in the description where I get a kickback on stuff that you buy. And there's also Mixed Garage, which will do the same thing if you buy some bits for your car. Oh, and there's super thanks and memberships if that's more your thing. So with all that out of the way, I've been Aidan Millward. Have a great day wherever you are, and goodbye.
Yeah, I really hope Mick Schumacher will go to Alpine. It will be so perfect, the comeback, and hopefully he will also do super good. And who knows? Gasly and Mick Schumacher will maybe become the greatest friends ever, even better than Gasly and Tsunoda. See, then we have this could be so risky. Fucking Formula 1 F1 Nation podcast. I've not had any problem with them before. So let's see. This could be a gamble. Stake F1 team kick Saber sponsor. What next for Con plus Alpine? Bumps for the Red Bull, I don't know. 2024 Canada Grand Prix review. F1 Nation podcast. So let's see what they have, what Alpine they have on Ocon.
Hasn't Formula 1 been awesome lately? It's a land.
Yeah, sure.
Victorious in Sochi. So, do we have a title fight on our hands in 2024?
Nah.
Welcome everyone to F1 Nation. I'm
not maybe a title fight, but a race win fight we can maybe get. Like Norris and Leclerc can maybe try and fight for wins, but not the championship. Maybe next year, but not this year.
I'm Tom Clarkson, and joining me shortly to preview the Canadian Grand Prix is 1996 World Champion Damon Hill. But first, let's talk about the news that Esteban Ocon and Alpine have agreed to part ways at the end of the season when his contract expires. Now,
one more fish for the collection. Wait. Let's see. Okay, we have it. Not like we are missing some really great footage, but hey, it looked nice to have it on.
Speculation around Ocon's future had been growing in recent weeks, and it ramped up again after team principal Bruno Fama said there will be consequences.
And then we will not be together next year.
His crash with teammate Pierre Gasly in Monaco. Alpine insist that incident is not what led to their decision. But let's find out more with Fred Ferret, F1 reporter at French newspaper L'Equipe. Fred,
Sure.
it's great to have you on the show. So, why have Alpine and Ocon decided to go their separate ways? What?
He's not a good driver. He's bad for the team. And they are trying to look to the future.
Can you tell us?
I would say that this is the end of a couple, so there will be mystery for a long time between the two of them. But for me, it's not, and maybe for you either, and for all the listeners, we all knew that one of the French will have to leave before the end of the year.
And they picked Ocon. Well, doesn't that say so much? Like, Toto Wolff doesn't want him. Alpine doesn't want him. I mean, maybe Audi. Maybe wants him. That's if Color Science doesn't pick them. But yeah, who more? I mean, I feel like Williams don't want him either. I think they rather want to keep Logan Sargent than put in Esteban Ocon there. Because they want teammates, not people that fight each other. So Haas is maybe the 100% only place for him.
Find the seats elsewhere to secure his future in F1, because both of the French drivers deserve a seat in 25.
But Fred, why Ocon and not Gasly then?
Because maybe Esteban has already worked heavily on finding another seat, and Alpine was not pleased. And we can see since the beginning of the French couple, it hasn't worked well, not at all, and especially.
Oh my God! Ocon's talk about he have Mercedes contacts, so maybe he can join Alpine, eller join Mercedes. That probably will never happen. I believe more on Antonelli than Ocon.
Days where every one of them has to prove to the whole world that he deserves a seat for next year. They're fighting like hell, but they don't have a car to fight. So when you're only 12 or even 19, it's difficult to move ahead on the grid. So they're maybe over driving sometimes, and that's why they're doing mistakes.
I have sensed that there's been a bit of frustration, increasing frustration at the team. I mean, let's cast our minds back only a couple of races to Miami. Do you remember that opening lap when they were side by side for what felt like ages? And you could...
Oh my God! Like, yeah, I mean that's kind of hard but fair driving. Ocon for some reason just want to do all the time. Just why? Just so you can beat your team at every lap. Not beat them in the race, you also need to beat them every lap. It's like so weird.
Hear the sort of
One more
tension
fish
coming from the Alpine
for the
garage
collection.
at the time. I mean, how has the news been received in France
One
about
more.
Ocon leaving?
It has been very
It should be good because Gasly can have a nice year in Alpine now.
tough for Esteban, because in France suddenly Esteban was the kind of the best guy to be married to. We say in French le gendre idéal. He used to be like that, but there were some heavy bashing on Esteban.
Man, Gasly should have easily take that position now.
About the accident in Monaco. So it was not a surprise that everyone was talking on Monday, okay, he's gonna be fired for Montreal, and then he will come back for Spain, which is not relevant because it's not possible to get a driver out because there are contracts existing. So you can't ban a driver for a race unless he says.
I mean, FIA proves that 100% that even if you do stuff that you should earn points and get banned for the race, it still doesn't get banned. And you can keep crashing out people.
Okay, Alpine is a bad team. I don't want to drive anymore for Alpine, which is not
Well,
the
not
case.
fish.
Okay, they had an accident,
The collection.
but I'm pretty sure that you know that he's a Mercedes contracted guy. So you can imagine that Gwen Lagrue and Toto Wolff are reading the contract
Oh my god.
very thoroughly, and I'm pretty sure that
Two more.
they were aligned that you're not allowed to skip my driver from a race unless there is a FP1 coming for a young driver. So maybe Jack Doohan
Like Mick Schumacher. Please. Bring him in the Alpine family in Formula 1.
will drive on a Friday morning instead of Esteban soon. That's the possibility. I think that will be the only punishment for Esteban for that incident between him and Pierre.
You mentioned that he's a Mercedes driver.
And he will never go to Mercedes.
Gwen Lagrue, who looks after the young drivers there, and Toto Wolff managing his career. There is, of course, that second seat alongside George Russell at Mercedes next year. Do you think Ocon has got any
Nope.
chance of getting into that seat, or what do you see as his next move?
I think it's very difficult because now we thought that everything was connected with Max. Now we understand that Max won't.
Man, fucking they copiar about Max Verstappen go to fucking Mercedes. I mean, that's so depressing that people believe that. Fucking, what? I mean, think somewhat. I mean, Toto Wolff wants so many other people in the car. He wants Max Verstappen, he wants Antonelli, he 100% doesn't want Esteban Ocon.
Won't move next year. So we have to wait. Then we have to wait for Carlos. But Carlos is waiting for a Mercedes seat or a Red Bull seat, which is not coming anymore. So where is going Carlos is the key for now the move of the drivers. If Carlos is going to Williams for 1 year, then there is an opening for Esteban in Sauber. This is the chance. And then there is also Haas, which is another move.
So Carlos Sainz is still the key to the driver market.
Yes.
No one else, the other dominoes can't fall until we know what Carlos is doing.
I think so. He's a winner of Grand Prix. Esteban too, but only one. He deserved his win in Hungary, but he's not as highly rated as Carlos. So Carlos moves.
He deserved that win, yeah. Wonder why? Was it because all the help Alonso gave? I mean, that would be so much fun to see Sebastian Vettel to get the win.
And then the other moves.
And then he will still get disqualified and then Ocon can get the win.
So, who is going to replace Ocon, and what does all this mean for Pierre Gasly?
What about the Zhou, who will be out of a seat? And we know that Gilly is very close to Renault. Gilly is a
Ooh! Man, could that happen? Jürgen Joe go to Alpine. I mean, that could happen. Ooh, interesting. Fucking Jürgen Joe. No, he was part of the Alpine team, I think. Let's see. Jürgen Joe. Oh my god. Fucking do you spell Jürgen Joe? Drivers. Joe, go on. Joe. Joe. Alpine driver. Yeah, 3 of the drivers in Alpine. Yeah, so he's maybe not part of the Alpine Academy lineup now, but he was.
Car manufacturer of China, who is very close to Renault, car manufacturer in France. They signed a deal, I think, 1 year ago, and it would make sense to have a Chinese driver in, even if it's a French team, but who is related to a Chinese manufacturer.
True.
Having Zhu makes sense alongside Pierre.
Oh my god. The new friendship with Gasly is Yogan Joe. The Chinese take over the Japanese friendship with Gasly.
And we also forget that we have another French driver whose name is Victor Martins. He's not delivering well at that time in
No,
F2.
he's doing really badly in Formula 2. He did somewhat good in last year, but now he's no. Like something have happened, and he have not have a good season.
He's suffering like hell, but we can see glimpses of very good things coming up now. And he was one of the favorites of the championship, and I think that he can recover. And if he wins the championship, then
brown
he's
fish.
the perfect candidate to be on the seat of Alpine.
The brown Lewis Hamilton flopper. Nice. Oh, one more. And then we place them all down. Bum, bum. And then we take out some more buckets. Let's see. Then we have 4 more stacks of buckets. And stacks, I mean 16 stacks. Then I need some more iron. Iron. Need some more iron.
And maybe Pierre will move too. I don't have any clue of what he will be doing.
I think the team will want to retain Pierre. Joe actually ticks a lot of boxes because he was part of the Alpine young.
So Jürgen Yu or Mick Schumacher. I want to see Mick Schumacher back, but I also want Jürgen Yu being still in Formula 1.
Driver program, and they want to prove, particularly after everything that happened with Oscar Piastri, that there is actually a way through to the Formula 1 team. He did an FP1, I think it was in Austria 2021. I think was the first time he appeared at a race weekend. That was in an Alpine. So he's got all the links. He's also got the link to Gilly, as you say. So I wonder if Joe actually is in pole position to replace Esteban. And
hopefully
Joe and Pierre Gasly, I think, is not a bad lineup for them.
You must not forget that Mick Schumacher is pushing like hell to come back.
Yeah, true. I'm not. If we're going on who is the best driver to take the place, Mick Schumacher. If we want to have the money talk, it's Jürgen Yu.
Back in F1. And as he is driving on the wake side of Alpine, it would also make sense to bring him back. And Bruno Famin says that he's more talented than we think. That's his words.
So there's Mick, and then of course there is Jack Doohan as well, who's doing
no, Jack, no. If Jack, man, Alpine is such a copium team if they actually pick Jack Doohan. They have Jürgen Yu, they have Mick Schumacher, and for some reason they pick Jack Doohan. Nah, they're so stupid.
tests in the 2-year-old Alpine. He was at at Zandvoort, wasn't he, just over a week ago? And apparently was very impressive as well. So actually, even without Ocon, Bruno Famin has a lot of options, doesn't he?
But not the best one, I would say. When you were supposed to have Alonso or Piastri alongside Ocon 3 years ago, and you end up with a Gasly Zhou or Gasly Schumacher lineup, I wouldn't say that is the best one.
Well, look, how do you think Ocon is going to deal with the remainder
One more
of this
fish.
season now?
I think Bruno Famin will have to.
He will do the same. That hopefully it will be. Even whatever warning Ocon gets, he still drives like he have always been doing, and that makes him like. They just remove him and just put in like Schumacher or like half a season before they actually should have been in the car, because how Esteban Ocon can't follow team orders.
Be a very clever manager, because now it will be him and only him. You know the drivers more than me, and now he doesn't have to click all the boxes to drive alongside his teammates. So now it's only for me, and I have to prove myself. Sorry, mate, but I will try everything to be in front
So nothing will change. Is that you're talking about?
of you.
I wonder if there might be some more Monaco, some more Portier corners on the opening lap in Monaco ahead of us. Maybe starting in Montreal this weekend, of course, which is a fast track, very little runoff in places as well. Well, Fred, it's been brilliant to get your thoughts. Thank you very much for your time. Travel safe out to Montreal, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks, Tom, and see you in Montreal.
And you can read more analysis on Ocon's Alpine exit and what it means for the driver market on F1.com.
No.
If you're an entrepreneur who wants to hear a little more of this, business course. Canadian Grand Prix. Canadian Grand Prix with 1996 world champion and former winner around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Damon Hill. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for reminding me about Canada. I thought you were going to say Monaco then, and I thought, no, I didn't win Monaco. But anyway, it's great to be back, and it was great. And I know that some people thought that the Monaco Grand Prix was a little bit samey. But I didn't, and I can give you a long reason why that is. But you're right, it's great to get another winner. Charles, absolutely fantastic to win as a Monegasque. That's the first time that's happened for 93 years, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's Louis Chiron you're talking about. But in the World Championship era, since 1950, of course, it has never happened. But did you enjoy Monaco then?
I always enjoy Monaco, but I have to say I went not working with Sky. I went as a corporate person doing stuff, talking to guests and so forth, and I was able to take it in a bit more. And maybe it was because I was quaffing champagne on a balcony overlooking the
So you didn't watch the race?
The climb up to Massenet, and I had a fantastic view of all the yachts in the harbour. Maybe that's what slanted my opinion of the Monaco Grand Prix a bit. But
100%
it's fantastic, and I got chills down my spine when qualifying was on, and it was just great to see a Monegasque victory. What a fairy tale story!
Yeah, it was a.
I wouldn't say a fairy tale. The fairy tale would be. It was a great race also. No, it wasn't a great race. It was a fairy tale ending. But a nightmare story. Nightmare story with a fairy tale ending.
Feel-good win, as was Lando's back in Miami just a couple of races ago as well. So, Damon, do you think we have a championship battle on our hands? Because just 24 points separating Ferrari and Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship now, and really only 31 separating Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. I mean, how do you read the situation?
I definitely think it's game on. I think that there's two teams that are showing.
There is more game on than it maybe should have been. But no, it's not
pace
game
and
on.
Closing the gap on certain circuits.
It's like, have Mercedes done any progress on their car? Yes. Yeah, I see that. And still nothing happens.
I think you give Red Bull the right kind of track, and I think it might be hard to catch, but definitely Ferrari, McLaren. Don't forget, they've both got two drivers who can attack. I'm not sure you can say that of Checo. So a little bit one-legged at the moment. Red
Carlos Sainz can't attack.
Bull if they want to defend. So Checo's going to have to really. I mean, it's no good being 3/10 away from Verstappen anymore because so many cars can jump in that gap.
For the collection,
become smaller and smaller. So points-wise, you can see that it's diminishing.
One more.
Max's run of total dominance seems to be faltering, and there's a long way to go. It's such a long season. I just think you won't even remember Monaco by the time we get just past the British Grand Prix.
Unless you're Charles Leclerc.
Well, hopefully he'll be thinking of winning
forget.
more. He doesn't want to stop there, so yeah, he might be thinking. But he will never forget Monaco.
I believe Baku can be the next. Baku and somewhat be amazing. Monza. 2 more wins for Ferrari. And maybe Silverstone for Lando Norris. Maybe Singapore for Piastri. But all other races, I believe, Max Verstappen will just easily win.
And he will live, as I said, he will be Saint Charles of Monaco now for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I'm figuring there's going to be a corner named after him, isn't there, on the track? But in the debriefs in Milton Keynes this week, where do you think their concern lies? In the Drivers' Championship or the Constructors' Championship? Because you've actually already said that Red Bull now need 2 drivers scoring in every race. And actually, I've got a couple of stats. If you look at just the last 2 races, okay, Imola and Monaco, consecutive weekends, Red Bull had a 1st and an 8th at Imola. And then they were 6th, and they had a retirement, of course, with Checo's huge crash on the opening lap in Monaco. Ferrari in those 2 races, 3rd and 5th at Imola, 1st and 3rd at Monaco. McLaren had a 2 2nd and 4ths at the last 2 races. So that consistency is what I think is going to threaten Red Bull for the rest of 2024.
Yeah, you could also throw an Oscar in there in Imola because he actually technically qualified on the front row, didn't he? So there would have been much more points for McLaren, I would think, if they hadn't had that penalty.
So if we throw it forward then, this is our preview of Montreal coming up this weekend. Do you expect Ferrari and McLaren to be as competitive versus Red Bull in Canada as they have been at the last 2 races? I mean, let's bear in mind, Damon, that Max won in Canada last year from pole position.
Yeah, so the question really is, what sort of track now? I think that Red Bull seem to be locked in a little bit with their design concept on their car, and other teams seem to have moved a bit and made some progress. You could compare Imola to Canada. It's change of direction, need to use the curbs, straight blasts, you need to be able to stop. That McLaren is very good under brakes. I was looking at some overlays, and they both, Lando and Oscar, seem to be able to take chunks out of people in under braking into corners, and that's what you need in Canada. And you need to be able to ride the curbs, and that's one thing that Red Bull were complaining about. You do need a slippery car, but the straights, it's medium speed corners, low and medium speed corners, and I don't think that is the Red Bull's forte.
Where are the medium speed corners at Montreal?
When I say medium, I mean, the chicanes on the exit, you're pulling a few, bit of speed, but mostly it's braking into slow corners and then getting on the gas. And the Ferrari much was made of their tiny turbo that seems to be able to spin up quickly. You imagine you've got a choice when they design these hybrid cars with the turbo. You've got a choice of getting maximum boost at high
almost look like an orange
lag. And so if you've got something that's large, it's more difficult because of inertia to get things to spin up. But if you've got a smaller turbo, you can get it to spin up, but ultimately it can't pump as much when it gets to the high revs. Somewhere like Mexico, where there's very thin air and all the turbos are maxed out, they might suffer up there, but they seem to be able to get out of the corners with that design concept quite well, which you need to do in
And it's so funny to hear how good McLaren is, and then you're just thinking like, and where is Mercedes in all this talk? When will you maybe mention Mercedes? Toto Wolff is almost crying because you have not mentioned that Mercedes is up there, and they will maybe win a race. And he's so desperate, he wants. I mean, he talked nice about Max Verstappen after the 2021 Abu Dhabi race.
Canada and Monaco.
What about the ride then? They have resurfaced the circuit Gilles Villeneuve since last year. So it's notoriously bumpy, isn't it? Because they get those huge temperature swings. What is it? It can get down to -30 in December, January, and then it's +30 when we go there in June, isn't it? So they may have leveled out some of the bumps, which will help Red Bull, won't it?
Yeah, so that's really, it's always had
that's
undulations. I mean, even if they resurfaced it, they may have followed the contours of the ground underneath the tarmac. So yeah, I mean, you're right, huge temperature swings. You know, imagine the freeze thaw effect of the ground as it gets to minus whatever and then expands as the sun comes out. It's going to crack and move the ground. But I wouldn't say Montreal is bumpy. I would say it's got unevenness. So you need a car that's not upset by corner weights going out. So corner weights are like a table. You imagine you go to the restaurant and the bloody thing's wobbling all over the place. You know, that's because it's rigid, and any tiny unevenness means that it wobbles and stuff. You know, you need all four wheels on the ground to get the most traction and grip. But one of the other features of Canada is being able to ride the curbs, which we saw in Imola and we saw in Monaco. There's time there, because if you can let the car not be upset by that, then you can take a tighter line. You can literally cut the corner. So you need to be able to do that. And if the car's upset, which seems to be what Red Bull are saying, and it may be because they've got the suspension geometry set so that there is less movement of the platform. They've got this extreme anti-dive, anti-squat setup on their suspension. It may be the talk is a little bit of potentially that affecting it in these circuits where you don't get much compliance and you need to get a bit more driver feel. It could be that is also putting them off a little bit when it comes to places like Canada. But we have got ahead of ourselves a couple of times before with Red Bull. But it definitely looks like Max is struggling to get. I mean, Imola, you could argue it was all looking desperate until he pulled off an amazing lap in qualifying. So he's able to do it.
Yeah, but the difference was hundredths of a second at Imola, wasn't it? Let me quote Max now from Monaco. He said, "I can't touch any curbs because it just upsets the car too much. It's not something new. We've had this problem since 2022. But with everyone catching up, when you're not improving your weakest point, you get found out." So I think it is part of the car concept, as you say.
Yeah. So, I mean, Adrian, I believe, was heavily involved in the suspension design of this, but he probably knew that the big gain would come from being able to control the platform aerodynamically with this ground effect type cars, and that was of more benefit than being able to ride the curbs. And for a long time they've had an advantage. He probably didn't have to muller the curbs. You know, he could just avoid them and still be quick. But now they're catching up. He's going to have to try and hustle it and wants a bit of ride over those curbs.
I remember him coming on the radio in last year's race as he was cruising to victory ahead of Fernando Alonso. He came on the radio and said, "I was almost knocked out over that curb."
Yeah, but they have these very cozy headrests now, which they didn't have when I was racing quite so much. And so, any movement of the car just whacks your head. It's good in a heavy shunt, but not when you're doing 60 laps around a track, which is quite bumpy because you get knocked around a bit. But I do remember one of my favourite photographs, Tom, is of turn 2 of my car. I'm using all the curb, and I've got the one wheel over the curb and on the grass, and I managed to find a way to hook the car so that it didn't hit the bottom of the car on the curb, but I just managed to use more curb. In fact, I went right over the curb, so I was only really 2 wheels on the track, but I found about 3/10 or something around there, and it used to hook the back of the curb and just hold the car in. It was absolutely brilliant. It's a great photo, and I love it because it's 2 wheels on the grass, but I look very happy.
That's free advice.
It's totally irrelevant to them now because they won't be able to do it.
Yes, probably.
Because of the shape of the curbs now.
Yeah, I think the car and also the underfloor as well, it's not possible to get across like I could.
Well,
one of the things I always notice in Montreal...
Max Verstappen can try to do that. He did it in... what race was it? Must be Miami. Where do we have that? Yeah, Miami, when Norris won. Because Max Verstappen tried something out and he's ruined his car maybe.
When I'm walking / running the track, depending on my mood, is how blind a lot of the corners are, right? So, you've got these chicanes. And, okay, let's talk about the last couple of corners. That last chicane, the Wall of Champions. I'm sure you didn't go near the Wall of Champions, Damon. Oh.
I don't think I've seen... I mean, it's called the Wall of Champion for a reason, but live, in a live race that I've seen, I've still not seen it, I think.
Oh, hang on. But what is it like? What is it like on the approach to some of these high-speed chicanes, right? You're doing 300 kph more. How difficult is it to judge your braking point?
The section after turn 2, when you go up the hill and you've got that little chicane, now that is very disconcerting, that corner, because the road drops away, you drop down into a chicane, bit of a corkscrew, and then you have no runoff. There's a barrier there, and you quite often see cars getting very close to that. And as you accelerate out of that, it's totally blind. You cannot see around that corner. And then you arrive into the next chicane, and you can
so Kevin Magnussen can maybe do a crash there.
See it all, so there's not too much of a problem. There's a bit of gravel runoff, but as you come out of there, again, the straight is not straight, it's curved, but eventually you can see all the way to the next.
Like in Monaco, but Kevin Magnussen still saw it as straight, so there can be a crash. And there we have one more fish for the collection. Light blue flopper. We only need one more, and then it's time to go down in the chest room and place everything down.
Next chicane, you go under the bridge and there's shadows. So there's a dip. You want to keep the car left, but you can't really see where the edge of the track is, and you can't really see where the dip is, and your eyes are moving to the right, so you're in the corner of your eye, you know where the left side of the track is, but you're looking at the apex for the right hander coming up. So you know there's a lot of unevenness, but once you get to the hairpin, you can see it. You can see for miles. Literally, you come out of the hairpin, you see all the way down to the pits. So it's all pretty open there.
All right, but then that last corner, why do so many drivers, champions, get spat into that final wall on the outside? What is it about that corner?
If I knew that, I wouldn't have crashed into it. It could be that.
It's a hell of a roll call, though. You, Michael Schumacher, Jacques Villeneuve, Jenson Button, you've all been in it.
We all came out in a rash, didn't we? It was incredible. Suddenly there was this need to crash on this wall, and as you get very close to the wall, there's dust. So there's nowhere for the dust to go, so it builds up really close to it, and somehow you seem to be sucked into it. You get to within 6 inches of it, and suddenly, before you know it, you're sucked into the damn thing.
And I wonder this year, with the lap times being so close,
so close. The lapse time, the qualifying is so close, and still you can 100% tell who will be in top 5. I wonder why is that, when is everything so close?
Enough to separate, 3 rows on the grid. I think we might see a little bit of action at the Wall of Champions again as people explore the limits. So look, final thought on Red Bull. We're all going to be watching with eagle eyes to see what the ride is like over the curbs. What is the new track surface going to be like? But DRS is vitally important here, particularly that last straight line from the hairpin down to the last corner. And the Red Bull is very efficient with the DRS open, isn't it?
So, can we say 100% of Max Verstappen win, right?
Yeah, you could argue maybe because of the last... I know he got away with it in Imola, but DRS was not such a factor in Monaco, so they lost one of their big advantages, Red Bull. So definitely that will be back again for them to use in Canada.
Now let's talk all things Williams. Are they on the up? Because they claim they're...
Are they going up? I mean, as long as it doesn't do any more crashes, they will be better off. And I also got the 2 points from Monaco. So I would say yes.
First points of the season in Monaco, with Alex Albon finishing P9. That moves the team up to P8 in the Constructors' Championship and, crucially, above Alpine.
That's so amazing. We need to take it up. Teams. No, I want... yeah, here. And isn't this beautiful? Williams get 2 points, and because they are placing better in the race, they get above Alpine. 5 more points and then past Haas, and hopefully Alpine also get past Haas. They shouldn't be here. Fuck Kevin Magnusson, ruined everyone's... Man, so many times people could have got points before Haas, but Kevin Magnusson ruined everything. I mean, I like Saudi Arabia. It could be first points for Williams or first points for Tsunoda, but no. And then the race after or something, he did something more. So depressing. Well, back to the video.
And I'm delighted to say that we're joined now by the team's chief engineer, Dave
One more fish
Robson. Dave, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Nice to be here, Tom.
That was a great result
Let's
for
go
you
down.
guys in Monaco. I feel it's been a little while coming. What impact has that had on the mood in the team, first of all?
Has been a little while coming. I don't think we can deny that. But to get off the mark.
Yeah, quite now. We need to count. We need this one. Okay, how many fishes do we have here? It should be 22. 9, 18, 20, 22. Then we have 30, 32, 36, 40. Oh, one off. One off getting to 1,350. So we get past that halfway for the collection. So 140 must have been. So 149 plus 40. Oh, maybe I should. So you can see. Um, 22, 30, 34, 38, 40. Yep. That's done. Let's go back to the video.
In Monaco, I think was a great boost for everyone. It was obvious for all of us at trackside that getting into Q3 and then scoring some points was really important, and you could sense maybe a small hint of relief, but also a great deal of pleasure in that. And then back here in the factory, it was equally evident on Monday morning that everyone had a little bit of a spring in their step and was happy
I remember more reason for Andrew New to John Williams.
We're on the move and ready to go and score some more points in the coming races, hopefully.
Now look, tell us about the magic that you produced in Monaco, because it hasn't been a great track for you guys in recent years. So what was different this time around?
Yeah, so a couple of things, I think. Firstly, I think the FW46, so this year's car is better around those kind of corners than recent cars, and we made a deliberate effort to design it that way.
Also, I fixed now, so now I have signs on this chassis. Would be so much easier to look at that now. Let's see. I know one fish, the red one. Where do we have it? Red. There we have red. And brown. Oh shit. Go away. And we want brown. Do we any more? Probably not. Oh wait, I didn't look. Nope. Nope. Flopper and Snooper. The Sun Street. Nice. Then Flopper. Oh no, we have Brown. Okay, -1. Okay, back.
And I think we'd seen glimpses of it in similar kind of corners in other circuits, but that wasn't enough to score points at those. So we were started off with a good car in Monaco this year. On top of that, we were able to make some setup changes along the way. Now that's not always easy to do in Monaco, but we had the track time, we had the reliability, and crucially we had the support of the simulator back here. Often it's quite hard to simulate Monaco, but actually we seem to be in a good position there. So we got some useful input Friday night. Alex did some setup work on Saturday in P3, and that made a good step forward and made a difference to his pace. And then finally, I think the big thing was that in qualifying, we got all the big decisions right. And it's very easy in Monaco to get it wrong in qualifying, particularly in Q1 when there's so many cars out on track. You're never quite sure what run plans people are going to do, but we managed to work our way through that. And Alex did a great job. And then in Q3, once we got there, we were able to do a slightly different run plan to everyone else, which meant quite unusually, Alex pretty much had Monaco to himself for that final run on new tyres. So we were able to give away maybe a small amount of track evolution, but it meant he could really get the tyres in the window he needed. And
yeah, and you got 2 points for that. So that's something to really celebrate.
Fair play to him. He made the most of it and nailed a great lap.
Sounds like you nailed it.
I think we probably did. There's a lot of planning that goes into that, but there's also quite a lot of luck. We're trying to second guess what everyone else is going to do. But yeah, I think we can be pretty pleased and proud with how we dealt with qualifying on Saturday. Yeah.
It's a bit like musical chairs, isn't it? You need to grab a chair, and the chairs are given out on Saturday, and then you just sit on it all of Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. I guess this year it was with the red flag on lap 1, it was even more like that. But yeah, absolutely, the hard work for sure was done in qualifying.
Dave, a lot was made. I think I'm going to try and get you to dispel some popular mythology about the car. It seemed the last year the car had low drag, which was helpful in some places, but not enough downforce. Have you traded some of that slipperiness now for straight line speed and recovered some downforce? Is that where progress is coming from?
There's a little bit of that. On Alex's car, we had a brand new rear wing in Monaco that is a pretty big wing, and the lower elements was pretty huge. So we definitely in Monaco trim, we made quite a big effort to maximise the downforce on the car. Generally, it's true as well. We've got more downforce and more drag than we've had in the last year or two. We've also made quite big efforts in the way we design the suspension, particularly the front suspension. We get the rear from the
and hopefully Andrew Newey want to join Williams and make it even better team.
Ladies, but the front suspension is quite different, and the way we've gone about designing some of the aero characteristics is different to the last couple of years, which I think has really helped in those low speed corners.
Yeah, because we were talking about that before we came on about the Red Bull, and much is being made about their inability now to ride curbs and stuff. But that the gain they have is the control of the platform. Is that a fair assessment?
It could be. I can't speak for Red Bull, but absolutely we put a lot of effort into being able to ride the curbs and also control the car over the slight crowning of the road and the gradient you experienced turn 5, turn 6, particularly in Monaco. So we definitely made some compromises. We gave up quite a lot of downforce to do that, but you know better than I do, there's no point in having the downforce on the car if the driver can't actually use it and exploit it. And I think we got that about right for our car, I think, at the weekend.
Dave, can we talk about your drivers in particular?
Well, they still not mentioned Mercedes yet. No believers. They mentioned Ferrari, McLaren. Is the title ship fight owned against them and done nothing about Mercedes. Man, Toto Wolff will not be happy to listen to this.
Particularly Alex Albon, right? You have worked with, some of the modern day greats. You've worked with, at Williams, you've had George Russell, but then, of course, during your time at McLaren, you worked with, world champions. I mean, very simple question, actually. Just how good is Alex Albon? Because, he's re-signed with the team long term. Tell us about his strengths.
I think he is exceptionally good. He's exceptionally quick. He's also very smart, I think. And his feedback that goes...
Man, will he say anything about Logan Sargent?
Into those setups is really important, and he was extremely good while throughout Saturday. The testing work we did in P3, as I said earlier, some drivers not a big fan of doing setup work in Monaco. They'd rather just be on the track and finding their own rhythm. But he was very open-minded, could see the potential benefits, and was very happy to do that test. And then dealing with the pressure in Monaco, when we got him into some free air in the qualifying sessions, he was able to nail it. And we've seen that routinely throughout the last couple of years. I think it was Silverstone last year. We put him in a very difficult position post red flag in Q1, I think. Sent him out at the front of the queue after the red flag, and huge amount of pressure. He had one lap, otherwise we were out in Q1. And again, he nailed it. So he's got really good pace. He's got a lot of intelligence. Works really well with his engineers. And
now it's time to talk about Logan Sargent, right? How we will maybe be not in the seat next year, right?
So far deals with the pressure very well. So, you've heard James Vowell say it as well. He's got everything he needs, except the car right at this moment to be world champion. We just need to provide him with that car, which obviously over the next couple of years we're looking to do.
It's great, that you're making progress, because obviously Williams were my old team, so it's always interesting to see, and we kind of have a soft spot for Williams, but it's been a bit of a struggle. But there's reorganising. I get the sense that James is basically impacted.
Oh, I mean, I'm hoping so much that Andrew Newey will join Williams and bring back than where the once was up there. Maybe first they need to start getting points, then podiums, and then the first win, and then let's see if they ever will go past that. But that would be something I believe Andrew Newey would want to be part of, getting a team back to where the mostly was.
Fry's arrived, and he's been saying it's you spend most of your time running around trying to find things, so there's so much to catch up with the efficiency of the team.
There is. I don't think we can deny that. I think maybe part of the problem was that we were denying it, or we were almost oblivious to it, if you like. Clearly James and Pat have brought their experience of other teams recently and have kind of demonstrated just how behind we are on some things. But the problem we're in right now, it's a little bit like riding your bike and trying to fix a puncture on it at the same time, so something's got to give. And at the moment, the pace of the car isn't quite where we would like it to be, and the pace of bringing upgrades to it's also not quite where we would like it to be. But there is an awful lot going on that will reap reward in the future.
There's no getting around it, is it, in F1 progress? The other guys are constantly making gains, so in order to catch up, you have to do double the work that they're doing just to catch up. I mean, you do the same amount of work, you're staying where you are.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But you've got to do all that work and still be well informed, and make sure that it's productive work you're doing. There's no point in being busy fools, as it were. So we've got to stay focused and make sure we keep doing that, and everyone is. But also we've got the big rule change coming up, which hopefully provides us an opportunity to catch up without having to work it.
With Andrew Newey, right? Inside information, maybe give some leaks.
At 2 or 3 times the pace of everybody else.
You mentioned being busy fools. Is that a job of a performance engineer? Is to bring everyone back to remembering that they're there to make the car faster, and they get a car that the driver can drive, and all those things?
It is. I mean, that side of it is really important, and we've got some engineers who are experts at that, but it also takes the driver, I think, to remind people. It's very easy to get, for some of the engineering team, to get lost in simulation, for example, and we can't really simulate the driver, the fact that the driver's got to sit there and take those risks, and how you deal with the emotional side of driving, and how far are the drivers prepared to push. That is all massively important and contributes to the lap time you can actually achieve. So yeah, you've got to keep all that in mind, definitely.
It's very interesting hearing you say all that, Dave, because in the old days we used to do testing, so we'd go round and round, and as drivers, I promise you, a lot of drivers would just go, "You're just wearing me out. I'm not learning anything. We're not learning anything. We're just spending the money and burning tires and petrol, So what is the point of this?" And so yeah, it's now got to be more efficient. You've got cost caps as well, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the cost cap is an enormous change that has to drive efficiency, but it's at the same time you've still got to be data driven and do that work in the wind tunnel and the simulation, and then try and layer it with the driver, hopefully through the actual driver in the loop simulator. But yeah, it's an exciting challenge, and it's interesting having that cost cap sort of lurking over you. You can't afford just to do everything. You've got to make some decisions and admit you can't do everything, and leave some things on the drawing board, as it were.
Well, Dave, this is our Canadian Grand Prix preview, and
will the last roll maybe be good for once? Probably not.
We wanted your expertise to guide us around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as much as anything. Let's talk about the track first of all. Is it unique on the calendar, and what are the main challenges?
I think it is fairly unique. It's got some similarities with some of the corners in Monaco. There are some fairly serious low-speed corners. Turn 1, 2 is a very slow opening up to the lap, and of course the hairpin at turn 10 incredibly slow. So there are a few things to learn from Monaco that we can apply, but unfortunately all those lower speed corners are separated by some pretty long straights. So everyone will run much less downforce and drag than they ran in Monaco, and that makes it quite unique. You can run quite low downforce and drag, be pretty quick on the straights. Overtaking is relatively straightforward, certainly much easier than Monaco. You've also got to be able to ride the curbs. A lot of chicanes in Montreal that you need to be able to contest.
Bad at this race, so Williams will probably get some points this race also, right?
And with that can be pretty difficult. And also with the current tyres we have, getting temperature into the tyres can be very difficult. For this year, we've got a whole new challenge. So I believe the whole track has been resurfaced. We don't know.
Man, that will ruin Lance Stroll's race 100%.
Currently very much about that. So as soon as we get some people on the ground, we can get that scanned and get a first sense of what it's like. Now hopefully it isn't very bumpy if it's been relayed recently. Normally I think the harsh winters in Montreal can cause a bit of havoc to the tarmac as it ages, but if this is pretty new, then we might find that it's actually a very smooth surface. Bumps under braking aren't such a big problem, but depending on how rough the tarmac is, we might find that the tyres are quite a challenge to get going. So we might find the teams battling with that P1, P2, and then as the track starts to grip up, it should get a little bit easier.
How blind are you to the tarmac? I mean, you say that when you have people on the ground, you can start scanning it, but how much information do you have before you go?
We've got very little, to be honest. We know it's been done. We know there's some reasonably rigorous standards to which it has to be done. We know what they've done to the curbs, which is basically replace them with new versions of what was there before. But no, the tarmac itself, we probably get some early information from Pirelli, who will probably be there before we are, so they will take a scan and make some observations, but nothing overly sort of scientific before we actually get there.
Do any teams send people out early just to take a look at things like that?
They may do.
Let's see. Probably Mercedes. They are always out to try to learn the car. I don't know if it's ever goes anywhere. Not they actually learn anything. Light blue, orange. You could think Lance Stroll should also be doing that. But I don't know. I don't think he's getting paid to actually learn anything in Formula 1, so probably not. Maybe Longsari will maybe be doing something. Yeah. Probably more, but maybe everyone will do something.
We certainly went and had a look, say, at Vegas before we went there last year. Not so much the details of the tarmac, but certainly.
Minus Lance Stroll, everyone will try to learn the new track, and Lance Stroll will not do anything.
To get a sense of the place, and make sure we knew what was around and what basic layouts of the roads were, the roads that would become the track. I don't know whether teams will have sent people out to Montreal. They may have done.
I think it's fascinating. I was going around Imola doing some filming, and I saw a guy pushing what looked like a kind of Hoover or trolley around the track. His job was to. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I can't tell you." And so I said, "You're measuring something, aren't you?" It was either distance, but also they were measuring the roughness of the tarmac. But he was doing it offline, and I thought, well, I wonder why you're doing it offline, because that's not going to be of any interest to anyone, that bit. But maybe that has to do another lap and do on a racing line lap as well. But yeah, the detail is incredible. But I think there'll be a big, massive queue of people wanting to do the job to go to Montreal early, just to walk around the track and then go for a beer.
I'm sure they will, yeah. Yes, I'd quite happily volunteer for that, I think. Montreal's probably one of the best host cities we go to, I think.
It's a lot of fun. I love Montreal.
No.
The forecast doesn't look great. I mean, the last two qualifyings we've had there's been wet. And of course, actually, Williams, you nailed it again in Q2 last year. Do you remember, Damon, that Alex Albon, I think you put on soft tyres when everyone else was still on inters, and Alex was fastest of everyone in Q2 by more than a second, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So are you doing a bit of a rain down?
I wouldn't object to it being wet. Quite a good result there in 2011 in the wet with JB, albeit not in a Williams. But it's
the longest race ever.
Yep.
My toes have just about thawed out.
Yeah, that was long. Dave, I've got to ask that question about how much of it is the driver pushing for those decisions, and because you're not on the track, you're not in the car, you can look at the sky and say, well, what do you think? But really, the drivers. Is it the driver?
Yeah, I think definitely when the track starts to dry up and you try to fit slicks when it's damp or inters when it's crossover between the full wets and the inters, then absolutely, I think the driver has to be completely involved in that. There's no point in sending them out with something they're not comfortable with, because you've got to be able to push. But the moment you leave the pit lane, there has to be just enough grip that you can push to generate the temperature, and then the grip will come and you'll get on that positive spiral. If you're too tentative, either because the driver's not confident or because we simply made the wrong decision, you very quickly spiral the other way and you just lose all temperature and lose all grip, and all you can do is pit and fit something else. So we tend to start the...
They still said nothing about Longsariant. The believers don't believe in Longsariant. That's mean. Fuck is this music? Fucking weird new music.
Discussion with the driver, we've got a sense of whether we think it's getting close to crossover based on the lap times that people are doing there and then on the intersay as it starts to dry. We know how we've set the car up and how we think it ought to react to running slicks in damp conditions, and whether we can generate the temperatures. And then we will have that conversation with the driver, and then between us we will...
Oh shit, almost about Longsariant. Hype. Now Longsariant can feel inclusive. They said driver, not only Alex Albon.
Decide. Also, I mean, I think when you're a slow car in qualifying...
When you're a slow car or just Longsariant?
you don't have a lot to lose. It's much more difficult when you're a quick car. Same as Q1 in Monaco. There's nothing worse than going with the fastest car in Q1 in Monaco and just spending 18 minutes in traffic and not setting a lap time. And it's kind of similar in those crossover conditions. If you get it wrong, you get it hugely wrong and you lose everything. Whereas if you're not really in the points or really deserve to be in Q3, you can take that chance, and when it comes off, it looks great.
You were talking about Jensen and that incredible Canada race where it swung backwards and forwards so many times, but I was in the Donington race with Ayrton, and he was, you know, the thing is, he made the call. I don't know how he did it, but he knew what he could do in the wet on slicks, or whether it was time for wet tyres, and there wasn't the information coming from the pit wall in those days. It literally was, what do you want, you know, and he just knew. The seat of his pants told him when to change tyres or when to stick.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I never met or worked with him, but I wonder if that is just some special God-given talent, really. I mean, I think Jensen was very good at it, and we obviously had quite a few races where we benefited from him making those kind of calls. But I think even JB would be a little bit embarrassed if we tried to compare it to that Donington race. But
why not? He got it right. He's got absolutely. It was a masterpiece, wasn't it, in choosing the right tyre at the right time.
In Montreal, absolutely.
And it seems that Alex Albon has got that feel that all the
Logan Sargent. Can it happen?
great drivers seem to have.
Yeah, I think he's got the feel, and I think he's got the trust in us, not necessarily to make the call, but to know that
oh shit, Logan Sargent, he maybe doesn't have the trust, right?
We're trying to guide him honestly with the information we have, and that's an important part of it. So he's open-minded to any situation, but yeah, he is very good at making that call as well, and I think it does just come down to, there's definitely a feel element to it. And there's also that understanding and that wider overview of what's my risk and reward here, which is also important to make the decision or not.
And you have got another driver there, Dave, who we've not mentioned, but
true. Have happened. Don't you care about Logan Sargent? What the fuck is this? Snooper.
Logan has been trying his very best. He's had some pretty bad luck as well. But in Monaco, he did say, look, I can't, that's it. I'm done. I've got the best I can out of myself. So you know where you are with Logan. How do you help Logan get some more pace?
You can't.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Monaco, it's fair to say he didn't have the best selection of parts on the car. We just weren't able to provide him with some of the stuff that we were able to provide Alex. The rear wing is an example of that, but also his rear suspension setup was compromised just due to lack of some parts. I think in Monaco, actually, he did an incredibly good job. You know, he didn't damage the car at all, and his pace was.
That's something. Why did you think he did good? He didn't damage the car. That's something positive, maybe.
Actually, very good. The gap to Alex looks massive, but all those extra goes Alex got at it in qualifying make an enormous difference anywhere, but in Monaco more than anywhere else. So actually his pace was very good, and he drove really, really well. I think the cars should be the same. We should have everything on both cars in Montreal, so that should give him a much better choice, or much better chance rather. I think it's still just a case of just encouraging him to be a little bit patient with things, build up the weekend from that first run in P1, not try and go too quick early in the weekend, particularly on this resurfaced track. There's a lot of learning for us and for the drivers there.
I mean, it would be so much more amazing if Mick Schumacher Drugovich got the seat instead of Logan Sargent. I mean, what could have been? Like, could this have started, like, could that been a comeback for Mick Schumacher? Or could that been a start career for Drugovich? But we will never know, because Logan Sargent got it and wasted it, maybe.
Probably don't think too much about what you think you learned at Montreal last year, because that may not be relevant. So again, have that kind of sense of an open mind about how we might need to set the car up, and particularly if the tyres are difficult to work, that's number one priority. So there's definitely some things we can guide him with, and there's still that need for him to just be a little bit of
just be better, but that will never happen, right?
A little bit patient and allow things to happen. These cars are very punishing if you push them too hard. The cars and the tyres together, they can be quite difficult, and even in a qualifying lap, sometimes you need to pace manage around that whole lap. You can't push from turn one and still have all the grip you expected, and therefore the balance you wanted at the last corner. So it's very difficult to work out how you do have to pace it, but there's often a bit of that, and we sometimes talk about this. You actually have to kind of drive slowly to go quickly. You can't force it. You can't be sliding around everywhere. Not on these tyres. It's really difficult for rookies coming in. You know, it takes a huge leap of faith.
If your name isn't maybe Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, then yes. If not, then you're already good at the first race.
Faith to effectively back off and expect to go quicker. It should be that sliding around is quick, but it's not.
Dave, just talking about pace management and Montreal, a quick word on brake wear. I know in the past, funnily enough, Williams have got caught out about 20 years ago with the brakes, and also just from a fuel point of view as well. Do you have to manage that over a dry race distance?
I don't think the fuel will be a big problem. It may depend on how much drag reduced to fit the car, but I think in reality you can put more than enough fuel in it. It's just that normal trade of they want to put too much in and cart it round, so we might choose to be on the aggressive side and then save. Brakes, I think these days with the brakes material we've got, the sizes of discs and pads we're allowed to run, I don't think brake wear will be a big problem. Sometimes if you're stuck in a DRS train, so you're not, some of the airflow into your brake cooling is effectively compromised by the cars ahead, and you're using DRS a lot, that might cause some people to run the brakes hotter than they wanted, and the wear will accelerate. But I don't think we expect it to be a big problem. I think what will happen is there'll be a big need to manage the tyres in the race. We take the same very soft compounds we took to Monaco. So I think people will be saving brakes and fuel just as a byproduct of managing tyres in the race. And I think it'll probably all come together for everyone okay. I don't think there'll be any major issues towards the end of the race.
Good chance we'll actually have some DRS passes anyway, because not like Monaco, we're not going to get a queue of cars just following each other. I don't think this time
we will not.
But did you have expectations going? Are you hoping to score again? You think you can get yourself in the points at a circuit like Canada?
I think it'll be a lot more difficult than in Monaco, but the momentum build up from getting those points and getting off the mark in Monaco does definitely increase the desire that everyone has to do it, and I think everyone will therefore be a bit more aggressive on a few things and realise.
Oh my god, they stopped talking about Lewis Hamilton really fast. Man, he is not. He will not be in the team next year, right?
The points aren't that far away if we can just push everything to its limit. So it'll be difficult, but if we get the choice of rear wing right and we get the tyre management warm up right, then there is a chance. I'm sure we'll be just outside the top 10 and therefore hopefully knocking on the door.
Okay, yeah, quite now. We have 4, 8, 10, 13. Go away. 13. We have 36. 4. So 14 fishers left to get up to 1,350, and that is the halfway to 2,700. And after that is just the other half to get. What the fuck? This would take so long.
And just getting in there, it would be great to pick up another point or two and just keep that momentum building.
Dave, best of luck from all of us here at F1 Nation. Hope you have a really good weekend. And if you do get those points, you can always go and watch Snoop Dogg on the Sunday night, who's playing at the Bell Centre.
Okay, I'll get that in the diary.
You'll probably be on a plane back though, won't you?
Probably fast asleep.
And that doesn't beat the Rolling Stones, surely. I'm old school, I'm sorry.
Dave, thank you so much for your time. It's been
So funny.
Really interesting chat, and I'll see you out there.
Yep, fantastic. Good to talk to you.
This is an advertisement from BetterHelp.
No.
What you
Oh, yeah,
propose
BetterHelp.
for the
Go
all
fuck yourself.
people that the only way with a
I spent my life talking. I like talking to. Yeah, I like talking to engineers. I mean, I spent my life talking to engineers when I was racing, so it was the only thing that really was worth, your time, because their knowledge, the experience of racing is huge. And also, what I found interesting about Dave was he was actually able to bridge that gap. That seemed to be what his job was to bridge the gap between reality and the factory. You can work in a factory, you can be getting all the numbers, and you can say, well, my numbers are better than they were last week, but how does it actually translate when you take it to the track? This is what this is all about. What Formula One is all about is saying, okay, in theory, we've got this, but in practice, something else is happening. We don't understand it. We need to find out what it is that is the driver experience. Ultimately they are the customer in a way, because if you don't provide them with a car that they can drive and get the best out of, then you'll never see
like Logan Sargent, that didn't mention a lot in the interview. Only a lot of talk about Alex Albon.
the best of your product, of your design work.
Oh, Damon, you won 22 Formula One races, and now in retirement you've become the Segway King, because I think what you just said leads us beautifully onto Aston Martin. And they appear to be struggling at the moment. Neither car scored in Monaco. They're now 52 points behind Mercedes, who themselves have been struggling this year, and they're only 20 points ahead of VCarb in the World Championship.
That would be depressing for Aston Martin if Visa Cash App RB Formula 1 team get past them.
I mean, what are the issues?
Well, I mean, I wonder whether it's to do with their new factory. I mean, because for most of last year they weren't in their new factory, were they? They weren't. Where were they? Were they wind tunnel? They've only just recently sort of moved into all their new equipment, as I understand it. Are they stuck with the same wind tunnel, or have they got a different wind tunnel going? Tom, do you know?
They're in the throes of making a new wind tunnel on site.
Yes,
which is, I think, going to come on stream later this year.
You see, once you're trying to straddle two things, it's quite difficult, I think, for everyone. And I think that this word correlation you hear all the time is the key thing. Is that whether the theory and the wind tunnel data and or the simulation equipment that you have actually matches up with what they're doing on the track.
Mercedes doesn't, so maybe it's same for Aston Martin.
And if you get that correlation, you can then encourage the people to go, you're going in the right direction, we can see the results, keep going. And it's the same with Mercedes. You have to say they've quite often come out and said the figures are good, it looks like it should be right, and then you go on the track, it's not working. So that correlation, that match up, I think it seems that McLaren are comfortable with it. They seem to be getting the results on the track that they were expecting. But Aston seemed to have faded a bit. They had a great leap forward, didn't they, at the beginning of last year? And then something has gone awry with the development side of things. They seem to have maybe got that correlation mismatch, maybe.
The team was saying in Monaco that, the issues are more low speed. And, of course, that hurt them in Monaco. Although, and actually, Damien, this is something I wanted to ask you about. Fernando Alonso, yes, he got knocked out in Q1, traffic issues. But he's now been out-qualified by Lance Stroll for the last 3 races. Okay, I'm sure in his mind he breaks it down that there was traffic in Monaco, and then he had that crash in FP3 at Imola, which meant he didn't get a clean run into Q1. So he can probably in his mind justify why that's happened at the last 2 races. But still, the fluctuating fortunes of Aston Martin are fascinating.
I'm not putting it down to old age just yet.
Soon, maybe.
I think anyone dare mention that, then they might be in for a little bit of a reaction.
I think they will be a little bit better than they were in Monaco. And let's not forget that Alonso qualified on the front row and finished second in the Canadian Grand Prix last year. So watch that space. Look, we now need to come up with our podium predictions. I know you love this part of the show. Who's your top three?
Yeah.
Max, Charles Leclerc, Norris.
It's getting more difficult, Tom. That's the good thing, isn't it? It is getting much more difficult. I think Max will be back, even with his curb hopping issues.
Enough to win it?
I think it's going to be, weather, obviously, discount that factor, but it will be more difficult to win this for him. McLaren, I'm going to say, let's say Oscar is buoyed and has a little bit of a extra motivation, having seen his teammate win one, and he knew he was on the front row at Imola, and it's a similar kind of track from the demands of the car. Let's say Oscar could do it. Yeah.
Damon, that is a great shout. He's actually been the better of the two McLaren drivers at the last couple of races. He said after the race in Monaco that he thinks McLaren can be quick at any type of track going forward. Oscar Piastri, his first Grand Prix win.
What about an all McLaren?
Maybe. But they need to fix his tires uses in the team, or in the races.
Front row in Canada. It can happen.
Wow.
It's not impossible. It's not plucked out
So
of the
your
sky, that
podium is Oscar from Lando from Max. That's how I've interpreted.
Yeah,
what
that's
you
going to
just
be
said.
a headache for McLaren, isn't it? Working out the strategy for those two when they're both leading. But they're going to be into a new problem.
Wow. So how do I follow that? I think McLaren are going to be quick. I'm with Oscar. I think they can be quick at any racetrack going forward. I think Ferrari will be slightly behind them. It's that unknown of Red Bull, isn't it? What can Max Verstappen do back in Canada? I think you're right. I think Max is going to be back. I think my money is on a Max Verstappen win with the two McLarens behind. I can't give an order, whether it's Lando P2, Oscar P3, but it could easily be the other way around.
I want to tell a little story. I'm not with Sky in Canada, but that will be my teammate from '96. And when we were racing there, the difference between a one-stop and a two-stop was negligible. And they kept on asking us, what are you going to do? And I was thinking, well, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'll just do the opposite of whatever he does. And so he wasn't making a decision. So I went for a walk and I came back a lot later. And once I found out what he was going to do, I did the opposite. So there you go. One stop, two stop, doesn't tickly under there.
And it was so close, that 96 race between you and him. What was it? I think less than a tenth between you in qualifying on the front row. And I think you beat him by 4 seconds. There you go.
It was tight. It was tight.
We've talked about the challenges facing the drivers and teams in Montreal this weekend. But what about the challenges facing our F1 fantasy team? Monaco wasn't a terrible weekend for F1 Nation Racing. Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda all helped us reach 175 points, and we did move up in the F1 Nation World Championship standings. Are you ready for it? We're now at the dizzy heights of P 139,092. But it's incredibly tight at the top. Paddock Here I Come leads the way on 2,209 points, just 1 point clear of Yellow Racing in P2, while Ford and Ferrari is only a further 5 points adrift in P3. Now, Damon sounded very confident about a McLaren front row and 1-2 in Canada, didn't he? So let's take his advice, and then we've got someone to blame if it all goes wrong. We're going to replace Charles Leclerc with Oscar Piastri. Sorry, Charles. Thanks for your win in Monaco, and I'm sure we'll have you back again soon. We're also replacing our two constructors. McLaren come in for Ferrari, and Dave Robson sounded optimistic about Williams' progress, so they can take VCarb's place. So that's a lineup of Piastri, Norris, Tsunoda, Albon and Ricciardo. Hopefully he can find some form at the scene of his first ever Grand Prix victory, with McLaren and VCarb as our constructors. Let's see how we get on. And remember that F1 Fantasy is free to play, and you can join our league at any time. Just visit the official F1 website or app and search for the F1 Nation World Championship 2024. And remember, you have until the start of qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix to make any changes to your team. Well, Damon, it's been fab to chat. One last thing to look out for in Canada is that the FIA are going to be announcing the 2026 regulations. That's exciting, isn't it?
Yep. Oh, we like to know what the future holds, and there'll be a certain person who will be eager to get his hands on the regulations and see what he can find.
And
that person, of course, has recently announced he's going to be leaving Red Bull. My old designer friend.
Do you think, Damon, Adrian Newey has been waiting for the 26 rules?
Yeah.
Before deciding what he does in the future? I want to see what I'm dealing with here.
Yeah, he's like, he's able to see, like...
Oh, so soon we will know if Andy Newey will actually join the Formula 1, Williams. Oh, that would be so amazing. The routes are so fun for him that he just, Williams, I will join you.
A man can see through steel. He can see through regulations.
He can indeed. He's got form. I believe you. Well, Damon, thank you very much for your time. And to Dave Robson as well. It was great to chat to him. Qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix starts at 4 p.m. local time on Saturday, with lights out for the 70-lap race at 2 p.m. on Sunday. And for your local timings, go to the official Formula 1 website or app, or just follow F1 on social media. A couple of parish notices for you. This week's guest on F1 Beyond the Grid is Liberty Media President and CEO Greg Maffei. I caught up with him in Monaco last week, and that's going to be available on your podcast
new fish
and the official F1 YouTube channel from Wednesday. You can also check out the latest F1 Explains podcast, which is looking into the new EA Sports console game, F1 24. And don't forget that you can be at an F1 race this season. Go to tickets.formula1.com to book your seat now. Well, thank you very much for listening. We will, of course, be back next Monday with our review of the Canadian Grand Prix. But for now, F1 Nation is produced by Formula 1 and Audio Boom Studio.
Okay. But I talked about somewhat about Canada. So that's somewhat a good segue to another video that could be interesting to watch. The Autosport Canadian GP race review. Who will master Montreal? Max Verstappen.
It's almost time for Formula 1 to head back across the Atlantic for the Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal for round 9 of the 2024 Formula 1 World Championship. And as there's a lot going on in Formula 1 at the moment, we're also...
Oh, Esteban Ocon's talk. Will that happen?
So going to talk about Ocon and Alpine, a return for Briatore, Sergio and Yuki and Antonelli as well, and Liberty Media's Greg Maffei. But back to Montreal. The track at Ile Notre Dame has always been a favourite amongst fans and drivers alike, with its high speeds, heavy braking and fast changes of direction. The perfect antidote to the pedestrian Monaco Grand Prix. Speaking of Monaco though, here's how the championship standings look after that race. And we can see that Max Verstappen leads.
Yep.
The way, but the gap is coming down. He's ahead of Charles Leclerc in second. Then it is in third place now, Lando Norris. He's jumped up ahead of Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz in fifth on equal points. Done a bit of a jump, isn't it?
Then we have...
Really after that, down to Oscar Piastri,
Alex Albon, 2 points.
George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Yuki Tsunoda is making his way up the order a little bit now on 19 points, but further afield there's still a number of teams yet to score. When we look at the constructors, well, Red Bull lead the way, but that gap is coming down.
Teams. It's just one team now.
Just 24 points now between them and Ferrari, and the gap between Ferrari and McLaren, well, that is also closing up. Mercedes just hanging on to the coattails of those two, just, and Aston Martin falling away. Okay, well, let's get straight into the Canadian Grand Prix then, shall we? And all the news ahead of it. And joining me to talk through everything Formula One relating to this Grand Prix, I've got John Noble and Jake Boxall-Legg, aka JBL. First of all, JBL, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, just as you catch me, Wednesday I'm going to Canada, so looking forward to that. It was very fun last year. Weather was a little bit miserable here and there, but as we all know, that's usually quite good when it comes to F1, so hopefully a little bit more of that, please.
Now, what about you, John? I read an article you'd written that you were one of the few people that enjoyed the Monaco Grand Prix. So how are you doing?
Yeah, I think I must be in the minority of, I think it's the rest of
Oh my god, what was interesting
the
with it?
world v me, basically, because I don't think many people did. But I love, I think races have got loads of different aspects to get into. And Monaco, you don't go and watch Monaco for overtaking and wheel-to-wheel battles. You go for strategy and...
Yeah, and what strategy happened?
Undercuts and the potential for jeopardy, and there was enough potential in that race up until a certain point that floated my boat.
Okay.
So there we go. I couldn't have it 24 times a year, but as a one-off, I'll take it.
Yeah, your boat that you've got parked outside in your garden that you claimed earlier on that none of us believe at all. Let's just let's stick with Monaco for a second, actually, because there's news that's come out that Esteban Ocon is going to...
Yep, the news. Esteban Ocon is gone. Isn't it amazing?
be leaving Alpine at the end of...
Before Gasly, and Mercedes have not tried to get Esteban Ocon into the Mercedes family, so... Alpine doesn't want Ocon, Mercedes doesn't want him. To another team actually want him, who knows?
This season. Now, do we think this is directly related to what happened at Monaco when he overtook his teammate?
I would say somewhat. The news about it got released because of that, probably. It's like... Probably that they... I mean...
ended
what
up,
do you say?
you know, not moving up the order as he would have hoped, John.
From what I understand, Monaco was a factor in this decision, but was not the...
Yeah, the factor to... Yeah, release it. Saying like, we are done with Esteban Ocon. We actually need someone else, please.
Factor in this decision. Just as I think that Monaco wasn't necessarily...
And hopefully it will be Mick Schumacher, but I will not say no to Jürgen Joe either. But Jack Doohan, no, skip him. I want Mick Schumacher back in Formula 1 or Jürgen Joe still in Formula 1.
The one-off moment that suddenly brought everything to a head. There's been issues bubbling away all season. I mean, it's widely known Esteban and Pierre Gasly aren't the best of mates.
Is someone best mate with Esteban Ocon? Pierre Gasly? No, Pierre Gasly. Well, yes, but I mean Perez. They weren't so good teammates. I don't know Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon, but Alonso and Ocon wasn't any good teammates. Clearly Gasly wasn't either, so maybe Ricciardo, but who knows?
I think they've tolerated each other and worked as they needed to. But I think there's been a few little warning signs. Miami, for example, they battled wheel to wheel through that kind of sequence towards the end of the lap, and I think it was more by luck than judgment that there wasn't a collision then. And I think the team management just feel that at a time when they need everything working together, it's going to be days of good fortune when they score points. They cannot afford to have both cars out on the day potentially when points can open up. They need
and that's what the first thing Ocon is thinking. Let's ruin the race for us both in Monaco when someone can get points. And luckily Gasly didn't DNF and could get a point.
Everything working together, and I think they felt that things aren't just not working, basically not working the direction they wanted. And performance-wise, I think irrespective of these incidents.
Oh my god, if Sainz didn't get his place back and Ocon didn't DNF, they could maybe got 3 points. Let's see, who was behind Ocon? I want Monaco. Let's see. Fernando Alonso got 1 point if Sainz didn't kept his place up there. But let's see. Starting grid. Oh my god, if Carlos Sainz didn't keep his place, then it could be in it could be 1 point for Esteban Ocon at least if he didn't try his overtake. But it would be even more funny if he did the overtake, or try to do the overtake, DNF, and then you clearly see that thanks to that Alonso got the point that he could have gotten that race.
Esteban was likely to leave anyway. I think he's got the Haas are interested in him. From what I understand, Audi, Sauber, whatever you want to call it. If Carlos Sainz...
Wait, the fuck? Did he say? Haas?
From what I understand, Audi, Sauber, whatever you want to call it.
God damn it.
Irrespective of these incidents, I think Esteban was likely to leave anyway. I think he's got the Haas are interested in him.
Oh, it's Haas. Let's see. We need to go. And then and that's my opinion also. Well, not my. I believe more Ocon will go to Haas. And I believe Williams will take him. The only reason Audi will take him is if Carlos Sainz doesn't go there. And I'm really hoping Mick Schumacher go to Alpine. But if he doesn't go to Alpine, I hope Jürgen Joe will go to Alpine. And hopefully not Jack Doohan will go there. Holy fuck. Like, why pick him when you can at least take Jürgen Joe or Mick Schumacher?
From what I understand, Audi, Sauber, whatever you want to call it. If
Stake F1 team kick Sauber. Now, is that really so hard to say? Let's change that back. No. Clicked wrong. Yes. Jag menar, så vi ser. Stake F1 team kick Sauber. And then we have Visa Cash App RB Formula 1 team. So easy names.
Carlos Sainz doesn't take that deal, then he was kind of next in line for that. So I think there are options out there. It's happened.
Yeah, option exists, but probably one team will actually take him.
And they're taking different futures.
Or more or less actually want to take him.
And we'll see how they rock on for the rest of the year.
He's been quite vocal, hasn't he, on social media though recently, and there's been quite a lot of articles written about Esteban Ocon saying he feels he's been wronged and that people are misjudging him and are coming up with their own conclusions.
Yeah,
JBL,
sure.
do you think that he's been wronged, or do you think we're right to have a certain opinion on Esteban Ocon?
I think this is a difficult question to answer, given that I wrote one of said articles about the reputation that currently exists about him not being a particularly good team player. But I think there's genuinely believe there's truth to it, and I think the Esteban doth protest too much, unfortunately. There have been incidents.
I mean, let's say everything is a lie how he treats other teammates. His attitude to that make it so 100% true that he's a bad teammate. So it's like everything about him makes everything people say true. So if he want to make everyone being wrong, just act like someone more nice. Or act like a person that people would like, than acting like yourself.
Throughout his Formula 1 career, which suggests that, you know, he's not above putting himself before the team. That's just unfortunately the way it's been.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Start putting Gasly before. First the team, then Gasly, and then comes you. Then people will probably like you.
That he probably disagrees with that. I think his social media statement suggests so. But ultimately,
I mean, if that was a team order that you don't try to get past your teammate. Drive like you are now, and we will secure maybe points. And the first thing you try to do is get it past your teammate. Then you're really not a teammate, a team player. You're opposite a team player.
It's going to follow him around unless he does something drastic. And ultimately as well, you have this. Yeah, it was a risk to put Gasly and Ocon together. I think
there's a risk to put anyone in the other car. Because to Esteban Ocon, that's the enemy.
Very, very clear that it hasn't worked.
Just looked how he drove against Alonso. It's like they're not in the same team. He's ruining his own race and Alonso's race just because keeping him behind. And that's the thanks Alonso gets after helping getting his first win.
They don't get on. They did say that they'd bury the hatchet, but there just seems to be this undercurrent of, I don't know, an atmosphere that's not particularly conducive to bringing out the best of a team. And I think, you know...
And they keep Gasly instead of Ocon. And that does say something about Ocon.
It just made sense to kind of cut their losses, part ways with Ocon after, you know, all of the things that John has mentioned. And kind of start again a little bit. I think it doesn't make sense. You can go forward with two drivers that don't like each other particularly, but it very rarely works. It's not good for team.
Oh fuck! I didn't. Oh shit! I didn't do the minus. Fuck me. How many could I have released? 13 I counted. That I would need to... Was it 13? Huh. God damn it, I need to count that after stream.
Harmony at all. You need two drivers that are gonna work together really when you're in that position.
But where can he go? If this reputation is preceding him now, where is Ocon likely to end up? Because there's quite a lot of teams available, the seats available, but
on the horse will take him.
There's a lot of drivers.
I mean, they have Kevin Magnussen, so he will. People that crashes, that's what Haas want.
Waiting to fill those seats, and it looks like we're going to lose at least two current drivers anyway from the crop, with maybe some rookies coming in for 2025. John, have you got any ideas of where he might go? You've been talking about who might fill his seat as well.
Yeah, so as I said before, I think Haas are clearly interested. They want, I think Oliver Behrman's a shoe in there. I think he's impressed enough.
And if Esteban Ocon goes to Haas, Kevin Magnussen is out.
Ferrari.
He didn't get a race ban. He got a Formula 1 ban.
They're pushing on, promising rookie. I think he's kind of 9/10 of the way there to a Haas seat for next season. sorry. I think Haas don't want 2 rookies. I think they've learned their lesson when they got bit with Mick Schumacher.
No. Ad time. Also, this ad, it's so bad. So many times I heard it or seen this and I didn't know what the fuck are you trying to advertise. And it was after actually when I started to watch it closer, I realized, oh shit, Absolute Vodka says it on the flask in the beginning. But holy shit, and also this music, so annoying. Everything about this ad is annoying. And I paid for it. And I paid for it to be on YouTube. Like, man.
And Nikita Mazepin. So they know the value of an experienced hand there. I think there are some concerns about Kevin Magnussen in terms of kind of consistency and just getting involved in stuff he shouldn't necessarily get involved in. And I think Ocon comes with race-winning pedigree, decent experience. Obviously,
man, I hate people using because you win one race in the most maybe rigged race ever. Because of that, you now will always have the title of race winner. I mean, it sounds like, oh shit, he's so good he won a race. No, he isn't. He won a race, but he isn't that good. So why even fucking say he's a race winner now? So annoying.
Very good junior single-seater record. So it kind of ticks all the boxes for Haas on that front. Potentially the Sauber Audi thing, pending what Sainz does. Sainz obviously has this offer from Williams that's could be.
Men I Sulkeberg, the zero race winners, zero championship driver. Or do you say the Formula 1 driver?
Quite attractive. From what I understand, Ocon's not on the Williams shortlist.
Yeah, and that's. You can say, why is that? Well, they want a team player, not a Esteban Ocon player.
James Vowles, I think his focus is either Sainz or Bottas for next season. So I think one of those two is a probable contender. So I think Ocon won't have too much trouble finding a seat for next season. And in terms of who goes to Alpine,
one more fish.
Jack Doohan, I think he's been evaluated. I think there's a chance he could get some FP1 run-ins as soon as.
He can, but he will not sit in a car. Come on, why Jack Doohan when you have Jürgen Yu or fucking Mick Schumacher?
Weekend's race in Canada. Obviously Mick Schumacher's been mentioned, but not really. I think he'd need to impress an awful lot for Alpine to commit to him for another full season of F1. And I think Guan Yu Zhou as well needs to be contender, former Renault kind of driver academy. Comes a bit
in my eyes, Mick Schumacher first, then Jürgen Yu, and then Jack Doohan. Jack Doohan isn't high up on the list.
Chinese backing, and I think there's some potentially some growing Chinese influence within the Renault group as well. So maybe he ticks more boxes for Alpine. But I think the priority for Alpine is finding a teammate that Pierre Gasly, who's set to get a new deal, gets on well with.
Mick Schumacher.
Well, as always with the driver merry-go-round, we're going to find out over the next few weeks and months, I'm sure. Now, JBL, there was somebody that was spotted at Monaco that's got tongues wagging. That was Flavio Briatore was seen there. Now, there's rumours aplenty that he's heading towards Alpine in some consultancy sort of role. What do you make of this?
It's certainly an interesting little, I guess, side plot to whatever on earth is going on at Alpine. It's odd because basically the suggestions are about his involvement seem to kind of vary. Is he there to kind of help investors into the team? Is he there to kind of wield some degree of hatchet with regards to recruits to the team? Or is it potentially, helping sort of grease the path for a sale or something like that? It's sort of very up in the air at the moment.
Nobody knows.
It's weird because he's been through, I would say, 3 very distinct phases of the team, Briatore. He was there at the start. He was brought on board in 1988 by Benetton to kind of turn the team around and basically crack some heads together, and obviously that yielded 2 title wins. And then he was there with the Renault successes with Fernando Alonso, and then exiled after the Crashgate scandal. So it's interesting that he's sort of found a way back, a life raft back into kind of F1 after so many years of being banned from the championship entirely. Yeah, what role is that in? I think that's the question. And is it an official one? Whether it is to find more investors, more partners. It's already sort of got quite a burgeoning group of investors, like the group with Anthony Joshua, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ryan Reynolds, of that ilk. It does sort of suggest that Renault is willing to, I guess, lose its sphere of influence a little bit more and kind of step away a little bit from the team. Would it go for a full sale? Would it sell to, as John mentioned, Chinese investors already? Would it...
Oh, this will be amazing. The sells to who the person that owns Lotus. Geely, the Chinese company, and then they removed the Alpine name and just have Lotus, and then we have Lotus back in Formula 1. And oh my god, then it would be perfect to have Jürgen Zhu in the team, and then you can 100% promote let's see, Alpine. Oh wait, maybe it says in Formula... What do the team say it's from? Formula Alpine. Base and Stone United Kingdom. Yeah, fucked Alpine then. First team entry 1986. Yeah, what we can say, because of the Alpine name, they already ruined some history with the Renault. But yeah, change the name to Lotus, and now it's a Chinese team in Formula 1. And Jürgen, you can still be in Formula 1, and man, the sales in China can maybe, man, be so high up. So much investment can maybe happen. So if someone buy Alpine, hopefully it's a Chinese company.
Would it to turn its team over to Geely or somebody?
Yes. And bring back Lotus name.
Did it eventually give Andretti away into Formula 1? It's
no, fuck Andretti.
Everything I've said here is purely speculative, but it just sort of suggests the mystery around his involvement.
Well, I tell you what, there was somebody else out there that's got a life raft, and that is Sergio Perez. There are rumours that he and Yuki Tsunoda are close to signing extension.
Wait, when did this released? 14 hours. So then I'm 100% missed it. Perez have only signed, he have 2 years with Red Bull. I mean, after the Monaco race, I thought talking about 2 years is maybe off the table now. He will only get 1 year, and then for some reason he still got his 2 years contract. That's amazing.
Since their contracts at Red Bull and RB respectively, what do you make of that, John?
Yeah, from what I understand, likely to come before this weekend, but I think the slightly movable targets. I think the Mexican general election has had a bit of an influence on when the kind of the Mexican side of that deal wants to go public. Yeah, I mean, Perez staying on board in some respects really boring for us, because you know, if a team's dominant, then you want the second driver to be battling there wheel to wheel, fighting. You know, there's kind of the rivalries that we love, like, Senna, Prost, Rosberg, Hamilton, Webber, Vettel, for example. Proper head-to-head, give us something to go against. And there's not really been that rivalry between Verstappen and Perez, apart from 2 or 3 races over 2 or 3 years, unfortunately. But from Red Bull's perspective, unfortunately, it makes sense. It doesn't cause trouble in the team, keeps Max happy. Max isn't under threat, doesn't want to kind of walk out because his teammates stirring things up and pulling the rug from underneath him. He did enough last year to help them get the Constructors' Championship, and they'll hope he can turn things around again this season. I think there are other options out there that could potentially be quicker than Checo. There are other options out there that could be quicker and cause more trouble. But Red Bull just want not necessarily an easy life, but they just want the line of least resistance, shall we put it?
I mean, when Ricciardo finally gets good, then Perez can maybe move aside.
And right now, that's Sergio Perez.
JBO, is it a good decision though? Because the Constructors' Championship is getting closer and closer by the race, it seems, at the moment, and it's not the first time that we've looked at Sergio Perez and said, well, his inability to score the big points.
Hej! Välkommen in till oss på Sportstudion på YouTube. Put the camera away.
Cost Red Bull Constructors' Championships, i.e. Constructors' Championship in the past. So, do you think it's the right decision to keep him on for another year, if that's what happens?
I think for all of the reasons John's mentioned, it does make a lot of sense to do it, but equally it is true that if he continues with his vein of form as it is, if he continues with inconsistency, as the number 2 driver, he should be finishing second every time Max wins. Every time Max doesn't win, he should be the one picking up the pieces, and quite simply, he's not doing that. He's not doing that in a way that, let's say, Rubens Barrichello or Valtteri Bottas.
Okay, he should be. Don't you want Leclerc and Norris be up there? So it is a team fight against three different teams. I mean, if you want that, then Sergio Perez can't never be the second fastest.
Does used to. And as the field does close up, he is going to ultimately, if he continues to do what he's doing, be a threat to Red Bull. So I think it has made sense for him to be in that role for the past few seasons. I do not believe going forward, if Red Bull maintains its superiority, he will continue to be the best person in that role. I think as much as it would cause internal strife with Max Verstappen, let's say, if Red Bull genuinely wanted to cement Constructors' Championships, Carlos Sainz would be clearly the best option for that car. Unfortunately, that's just not the way it's looking at it. I say unfortunately, in terms of a championship battle.
Why would you want to have Carlos Sainz?
Yeah, unfortunately. But fortunately for Red Bull, it has enough of an edge at the moment to keep Perez on. I don't believe that will continue to be the case, though.
And what about Yuki Tsunoda? I mean, here's a guy who's doing really well this season. He looks very, very competent and confident inside that RB, and presumably was looking for some progression in his Formula One career, John. So to say, okay, we'll give you a contract extension at RB, is that the right move for him? Is it the right move for RB? It probably is more the right move for RB than it is for Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, I mean, great news for RB, and I think however much Yuki would want a Red Bull seat,
Come
equally,
on, try that.
it's can be a poison chalice at times, getting promoted to Red Bull alongside Verstappen. You look at Monaco, for example. Checo's out of qualifying. I think it was 2 or 3 tenths behind Max, which in F1 terms, in old days would have been the difference between first on the grid and second on the grid. But this is now the difference between getting through to Q3 and getting knocked out of Q1. So there are these tiny performance factors, and I think we sometimes underestimate the influence that Max Verstappen is having at Red Bull. So I think there have been times, you look at Imola qualifying, for example, I think that was a Max Verstappen pole as opposed to a Red Bull pole. I think he lifted the car that day to make the difference. So I think Red Bull know far more the influence factor of, where is Max and what is realistic for a second driver. And I think if you throw someone like Yuki in at Red Bull, huge expectation and pressure on him to deliver, and he doesn't deliver, he's crushed by halfway through the year. Career over. So in some senses, Red Bull seat would be great, but do you really, as a young driver, want to be going up against Max Verstappen at his peak?
Nope, you don't.
I'd give it a go.
Yeah, sure. But after you've done that, where do you go next? If the top team doesn't want to go back where you were, do you go somewhere else? Or you just stay?
I wouldn't do very well.
Have you phoned Christian Horner up?
Yeah, he's not answering. He's not. He seems to claim that he doesn't know who I am, which is just absurd, right? but what about Daniel Ricciardo though, JBL? Because I've read articles about him saying he's concentrating on not whether he's going to get a new contract or where he's going to go, but on getting the results out of the car and results for him. But he'll be potentially a bit disappointed by the news that the seat at Red Bull will have gone.
I mean, that's kind of what he was brought in to try and take, wasn't it? To put that pressure on Perez. And last year...
And he didn't.
There were moments where he looked like he would be that driver. You know, that drive to fourth on the grid at Mexico that was sixth in the race. And a few before his hand fracture at Zandvoort. There were moments where he looked genuinely like he'd rediscovered his mojo, but this year it's looking more and more tenuous. Let's say Tsunoda has clearly been the better driver of the two. If you're going to promote a driver to Red Bull, you would pick the top one of those two. You wouldn't pick somebody that you're kind of betting all your chips on and hoping will regain past glories. That's not the way it should be. So Ricciardo has work to do to get back on top of where he's missing time to Tsunoda, and I think there's a few areas that he needs to work on. Obviously, qualifying is the big one, just getting that car balanced, because he loses a lot on a Saturday, which costs him for Sundays. So yeah, I think that should be where his main focus is, and then if those results improve, then an RB seat will the continuation of his RB seat, will follow. But I think he'll be disappointed he hasn't shown the pace that is required for Red Bull. Just on Tsunoda as well, from my point of view, I think Red Bull, it would be taking a risk to sign him, but I think it would be a sort of calculated risk, and I genuinely believe that he'd do a good job there. But the thing is, I think Tsunoda has been so effective at RB is because he's comfortable and he's kind of grown into the team.
Why ruin that when you can just have him there and just be happy? Your second team have a good driver that can make the team better. And when Honda finally goes to Aston Martin and Stroll finally leaves, Yuki Tsunoda can just go to that team. So he can just stay, be happy, and then when the new team needs him, he joins.
A few years there, Dave helped him become a better driver, a slightly calmer driver as well. I think telling him to put a euro in the swear jar every time he swears on the radio, that's kind of helped a little bit. But yeah, he's comfortable in that environment. They let him be him, and that's why he's doing so well. And I don't believe that Red Bull would necessarily offer that environment for him, unfortunately.
But let's stay on seats for a second, John, and Mick Schumacher and Kimi Antonelli are going to be testing this week in Barcelona. Is this all pointing, do you think, to Kimi Antonelli racing in a Mercedes in 2025? Is that what the assumptions are?
Yeah, I think that's been the assumption since the start of the season, beyond the unpredictability of the Max Verstappen factor. From what I understand, Toto has been crystal clear that Kimi Antonelli is a star of the future. And I think 2025, with the 26 rules coming up, a Mercedes not in a position to be fighting for world championships at the moment. It's the perfect time to bring a rookie up. I think he feels that he kind of missed an opportunity with Max Verstappen when there was a chance to get him on board, and Red Bull grabbed him and dumped him at Toro Rosso. But he doesn't want that to happen again. So I think everything's pointing towards Antonelli doing it. They've ramped up the F1 testing program. Mercedes have been at pains to kind of play down talk. These are shootout tests where he's going up against Mick. There was a test recently at Silverstone. I think it was over 2 or 3 days with Mick and George Russell, and people were making up stories about Kimi did times quicker than George Russell and all that sort of thing, which I'm told isn't correct, because different days, different tyres, different fuel loads. It's all kind of impossible.
So, but the time was still faster. You fucking retard.
But I think Antonelli's times are respectable. He's impressing the team. They want to see some progress, and it keeps rolling on. I think if I was going to have to put some money down on who's going to be George Russell's teammate at Mercedes next year, I think I'd put it on Kimi Antonelli.
Well, and I like the fact you said it with a sort of a Sean Connery accent as well there when you said his name. It was quite like that. It was very nice. Now, you've been featuring, we love your voice obviously, John, and we love hearing you on podcasts as well, but you seem to be podcasting out recently. You're on the James Allen on F1 podcast, which is coming out this week, which featured an exclusive interview with the Liberty Media CEO Greg Maffei. What can you say? Is there any juicy bits that you can tell us about what you said and what you heard?
Yeah, it was kind of a state of the nation overview piece, basically. So no kind of dramatic news stories in terms of we're going to get rid of sprint races or change the calendar or rip up the format. A lot of kind of the themes we've talked about. The next new races will be in Asia, 24 races maximum. He talked a bit. It's quite interesting. He talks primarily about how lucky he felt Liberty were in some respects when they came in. That F1 have been so underutilised on social media and digital platforms that Bernie's old model had been, protect absolutely everything in the paddock, don't let any moving images get out, nothing on social media, because he felt that would damage the business model of TV companies, and they just opened the doors, and then that's led to the transformation, this arrival of new fans, which is quite interesting. But he also talks about you can't be a mistake for Liberty to get complacent, despite the massive growth. And interestingly, also some concerns that if single driver dominance continues, could that be, the biggest negative, kind of hanging over Formula One? So he addresses that. And then longer term, also quite interesting, he talks more about Liberty's push, more kind of direct to consumer, as a F1 business model. So rather than, fans spending money on Sky and you get your subscription from Sky to watch TV. In the end, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we don't know, but maybe we'll all be subscribing to F1 TV and watching TV direct through them, paying them via our phone or tablets or TVs. So I think they're looking more at that, and you notice that more, that they're pushing more on their YouTube channels and TikTok and Instagram with moving content, which is an interesting thing and something that Bernie would never have done, because he would have said, right, absolutely none of this at all.
It's enough to make his hair turn white, isn't it? If it hadn't already. Look, John, thanks very much. Make sure you check out that James Allen on F1 podcast. It's out this week, and it features our very own John, among other people as well. Should we turn our attention to Canada then? We might as well. It's all about Canada this episode, isn't it? So, Canadian Grand Prix, what do we reckon, JBL? Are Ferrari going to continue where they left off in Monaco and at the sharp end?
I think it would be a little bit harder to do that. This year's Ferrari is very, very compliant on curbs and bumps, and that's something that Montreal has in spades. So you would expect some degree of form to continue over, but it is a very different circuit. You're not using high downforce packages. You're trying to get a little bit more top speed on the straights. So you're going to trim a little bit of downforce out. So it's finding that balance between where you are on those curbs and riding them properly and getting lap time out that way, and having the acceleration, the top speed to make the most of the longest, especially the back straight, going down towards the pit lane. So I think there's a lot of variables here. I don't think it's going to be quite as straightforward as kind of Monaco was, let's say. And all of the top three teams do have their own strengths and weaknesses, and I don't think it's as straightforward as Ferrari having a similar car to Monaco, so it'll be fine. Red Bull are going to struggle, and McLaren also be somewhere in the middle. I don't believe that. I think they've all got their own strengths and weaknesses here, so I think, honestly, it could be a fascinating battle between all three of them.
Well, let's stay with the team you mentioned just then, Red Bull, John. They did struggle with the curbs. Montreal's got pretty savage curves and pretty rough, abrasive surface as well. So is it likely to be another problematic weekend for Red Bull?
It's interesting. First of all, the old bumps issue at Montreal may not be as problematic. I think the track's been resurfaced, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the surface in terms of bumps, but equally does it trigger problems like we saw in China, or even Melbourne with graining and kind of a different type of tyre problem that Red Bull could potentially struggle with. I think what will be interesting is, we don't have the answers as to why Red Bull struggled so much at Monaco, but we're piecing together the clues, and it looks more and more like that they've pushed so hard aggressively to maximise their aero platform that it's given them limits in terms of mechanical flexibility. So when they need to raise the car up for bumps or for curbs, it kind of compromises their aero performance, and they kind of find themselves trapped in this narrow window, which may explain why Imola Friday was so difficult when they initially started far too low for the track and had to kind of back their way out of it. And Monaco, where they're obviously hemmed in quite a bit by this kind of inability to do mechanically what they want to do because of the aero compromises. So it'll be interesting to see how that balances out in Montreal. Will they find a way to kind of better deal with these two kind of conflicting needs at some points? But I think it'll be quite indicative of the season ahead that if Red Bull are again a little bit on the back foot here, I think we'll have a clear indication of the races they will struggle at, because I'm absolutely convinced we're going to go to Barcelona in 2 weeks' time on a flat, high aero demand track with rear degradation, rear limited, and Verstappen's you can wave him goodbye at turn 1 and he's going to be gone.
And what about McLaren then, JBL? Because they're in a bit of a rich vein of form. I read an article, it might have been you that wrote it actually, it might have been John as well, so I apologise for which one of you didn't write the article or did write the article, but it was about Seidel saying Stella saying that they were surprised by the performance and they need to understand why they're getting better performance out of the car than they were expecting. But is this just a blip?
You talk about Mercedes or at time?
Söndra och härska, censurera, övervaka, ljuga.
In a positive for McLaren, or are they going to carry on being where they've been?
McLaren? It sounds like you're talking about Mercedes, but sure, McLaren. Oh, soon we will hear some Mercedes and Aston Martin.
I think they'll carry on being where they've been, to be honest with you. And the thing is, they like to manage their expectations quite well. There's been a lot of discussion in the last few races about, from Lando Norris, he's saying, he's a glass half full person, where I think he's completely misunderstood the maxim there. He's a glass half empty man. He's always forever playing down expectations, and Stella's sort of been doing the same, although not to quite the same extent. But I think they should be up there. They do have very clear strengths. It's not as, it's not like last year where we were looking at their top speed performance and they're about 10-15 kilometers an hour down. They're not that sort of far off like they were at the start of last year. The car is becoming a little bit easier to handle for the drivers. There's hacking on more downforce. It just seems to be all culminating in a very sort of good all-round package. So when you look at that, I think it's hard to kind of play McLaren down. They will be a factor this weekend.
One more fish.
Whether they'll be in
for the collection,
contention for victory, I think it might be a little bit of a stretch, but we probably thought the same about that in Miami as well. So they do have a very good chance this weekend, and I think discount them at your peril. I think that there were moments in qualifying last year that Piastri looked very, very good until he shunted it. So with a better car this year, they should be up there.
It's funny, isn't it? At the start of the season, we were looking at the battle for second or the battle for third, that kind of position. There seems to be now a real battle for first, John, and with Ferrari only 24 points behind Red Bull, are we seeing a swing that you expect to continue through the 2024 season, through Montreal and beyond, or is it that Red Bull will pick up the pieces and start to extend that lead again?
I'm sure. I think we've had a run of races where the Red Bull weaknesses have been exposed. Talk about the Miami.
Hi.
The Miami slow speed, bumpy, especially the chicane section, and then Max's race was compromised when he ran over the bollard and wrecked the floor. But they're a team. They're more under pressure now than they were at the start of the season. I think that's fair. And when you're under pressure, you make mistakes with setup. You can make mistakes with strategy, and drivers can make mistakes. So I think that's an element that will remain. I think the days of them cruising are gone. Apart from, as I say, tracks that are absolutely perfect for the Red Bull, like Barcelona. I think if Barcelona went back to the old layout with the fiddly little chicane at the end, then it would be a different factor. But it's almost perfect circuit for Red Bull. So there could be days still where Red Bull are gone, but equally, I think the opportunities are there for Ferrari and McLaren, and then it will be a case of having two teams there. Does it benefit Red Bull because McLaren and Ferrari are taking points off each other, or does it hurt them because the weekends that Red Bull are off the pace, they're finishing 4th and 5th, not 2nd and 3rd, for example?
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. But I read an article, again, one of your articles, about Fred Vasseur saying that the advances they can now make are getting narrower and narrower because those percentage gains are harder to find, JBL. What's the reason that you've identified, or that you can tell us, that you think is the reason behind Red Bull being caught by the others seems to be so progressively?
It's the law of diminishing returns, isn't it? I think you see it in every single industry. The more progress you make, the closer and closer you kind of get to iterating and coming up with similar products. I think we kind of saw that. Let's say mobile phones as an example. When the iPhone came out, it was a huge moment, and then everybody else ended up doing the same thing. And I think everybody has a phone in their pocket of a similar performance point. I'm sure there'll be someone on the internet to tell me I'm wrong, but I think we're getting to that point now where all of the cars are sort of getting very similar. Everybody's trying to sort of do similar things with the floor because they kind of sussed it out. So they're all exploiting the same boundaries.
And Mercedes and Aston Martin, or 100% Mercedes, are they on this list? Or is just McLaren and Ferrari that will be close to
same limitations? Obviously, Red Bull got to the kind of edges of the envelope, if you will, first. But all of the teams are getting there. They're finding them, and in some cases, finding areas that Red Bull hadn't exploited. So I think that's the key, sort of the crux of it. They're all following on from what the top team did, watching what they're doing, understanding, let's say, how their floor works and that kind of thing. But they're adding their own twists and their own little niches onto it, finding performance where Red Bull couldn't do, as we've already mentioned, kind of slow speed and the bumpier kind of characteristic tracks. So that's where it's just a natural progression. The longer you have a
it's so natural that Mercedes doesn't do that.
Static rule set, the easier it is for teams to converge. So I think we had that in 2021 where we had, after years of Mercedes dominance, we suddenly had a championship battle. It sort of led us to think, is 2022 such a good idea? Because we've suddenly got this really close pack. McLaren was winning races. Ferrari...
McLaren winning races. They could have won the races. They won one race.
Still getting over a really horrible year. You had a couple of other teams all really performing really well. And suddenly then you go to a new rule set and it blows wide open. It'll be the same in 2026. We'll think after 2025, we'll think, is it such a good idea to switch? But it always converges. It always does.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like 2025 is going to be a very spicy year already. But what about a couple of other teams then that we've not really mentioned? John, are we expecting anything from Mercedes and Aston Martin? It seems like Aston Martin need to pull their socks up because it's falling away from them quite alarmingly.
True.
Yeah, Aston Martin, I think, is a team that needs some rapid answers to what's happening. They seem to have... They've kind of started the season in this no man's land of fifth. They seemed a bit of drift of the top four teams, but clear of kind of RB Haas behind. Then they had this phase where some improvements lifted them back into this pack, and now they've brought their latest upgrades on. They appear to have dropped away again. So I think the key thing to understand is it a repeat of last year where they brought upgrades to the car, they delivered theoretical benefits, but actually on track it was much harder to quantify. Mike Crack's already talked about these upgrades that came at Imola, made the car more difficult to drive, and it could be almost an inverse of what McLaren have found with their upgrades, that they bought kind of they knew from the simulator and simulation tools that it would bring a certain benefit of downforce, but the actual gain on track is bigger because the drivers get more confidence. There's a level of confidence that simulators aren't programmed.
But the problem is having Lance Stroll in the team. Maybe you should change
to deal with that. And if the driver's confident, he can brake later, corner quicker, get on the throttle earlier, all those sort of things. So the gain there is bigger, whereas maybe Aston's worse off that it's not taken into account the fact the cars are more difficult to drive and they lose time through this. I think there's some big kind of analysis now going on inside Aston Martin to sort it out. And then Mercedes, you know, they've talked, I think Andrew Shovlin has given this great analogy of it's a car that's been either quick in high speed or quick in low speed. What they haven't managed to do is piece this together, and Andrew Shovlin described it as having too small a duvet. So Mercedes can either cover its toes up nice and warmly or kind of cover its body and head, but it can't do both. And this is about making its duvet larger, basically. So these changes we saw with George Russell's front wing in Monaco, more bits coming for Canada. It's just about increasing that envelope, making the duvet bigger, and hopefully the car, you know, performs better at a larger variety of corners. That's their target and focus. No magic bullet. Stretch this duvet a little bit, and hopefully the lap time comes from that.
It will not.
Yeah, I read that Toto Wolff quite enjoys these analogies, doesn't he? You might need a big duvet, actually, because in Canada the weather can be quite changeable, can't it? No, it's a lovely link, this one, isn't it? Hey, what do we think about the changeable weather? Such a pro, writes itself. What do we think about the changeable weather and the chances of a safety car and the track itself? It can really, if anybody makes a mistake, it can really jump on them. So I guess teams in the midfield are looking at this as a really big opportunity to take advantage if there's an advantage that can be grabbed at any stage, JBL.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to continue the duvet analogy, which would be a shame because I have nothing to add. I don't know how I can conflate two ideas. But what we do have is if you look at the weather radar anyway, there's the potential for a little bit of rain. It looks like it's going to be sort of changeable, especially throughout Sunday as well. It seems that just by going through the weather radars cursorily now, it'll obviously all change by Sunday and it will be sunny. But it should be that we have a little bit of rain pre-race. Start of the race should be sort of held in dry conditions, and then by the end of the race it might get a little bit rainy, but that's just only preliminary at this moment. But throughout the weekend there should be rain, according to weather trackers.
Should be.
That's gonna change a little bit for practice with regards to how the team's set up, how they prepare, how they're able to look at these new parts that they're bringing to the race. And then qualifying as well, we had a rain affected qualifying last year, and it really spiced things up. And if it weren't for a penalty, Nico Hülkenberg would have been second on the grid. So it can do all sorts. Rain, it's the great leveler. So hopefully it comes. It's not just wet. I hope it's not just wet, and I hope I get to explore Montreal and do so in the dry. But equally, a few pepperings here and there should spice it up nicely.
Don't take a duvet out in the rain, it will just get heavy and it will not be nice at all. Let's talk tyres very quickly then. They're taking the softer compounds, the C3 to the C5.
I mean, there's so many Tridents.
It's a dry race throughout. Are we expecting a one-stopper or a two-stopper, John?
And it's just so fast.
I think it depends what this track surface is like. It's the great unknown with track surfaces, because sometimes there can be a ton of grip, and sometimes there's no grip. Sometimes there's tons of graining, sometimes tons of marbles. Sometimes the tyres fall apart on them. I think this is the unpredictability. I think it probably leans more towards a two-stop, just because overtaking's more possible.
So,
and the pit stop here loss isn't as kind of dramatic as it has been at Imola and Monaco, because if it takes 28 seconds to change tyres, it's much easier to say, oh, we can save that by backing off and driving slowly. So I think it's traditionally more of an attacking race, but equally one of safety cars, VSCs, a bit more chaos on that front, which often encourages people to roll the dice a bit.
Whatever happens, it will be more chaos than Monaco ever had. Monaco had nothing.
More.
We know that JBL wants dry weather for sightseeing, wet and dry for the race. What do you reckon? What would you be looking for, though, John?
I don't care what the weather's like. I just want a good race and that little jeopardy factor.
Like Monaco, because he apparently liked it.
Thrown in, builds it up to a fantastic finish. Simple man I am.
Very simple indeed. Now, before you both disappear, quick bizarre Bryn prediction time. So I want you to give me the top three, each of you.
Max Verstappen P1, Charles Leclerc P2, Lando Norris P3.
And then I'm going to ask you to predict something else a bit more random. So JBL top three?
Verstappen, Leclerc, Piastri.
Okay, John?
I might go
Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, and Sargent, Logan Sargent.
I might go Norris, Piastri, Leclerc.
What?
Norris for win number 2.
Yeah.
How about that? Now, what about...
Wait, Norris? What?
Norris for win...
Huh, Norris. No. He can maybe, I mean, he can maybe be close to one more win. But nah, Max will take it.
Number 2.
Yeah.
How about that? Now, what about a random one? Okay, JBL, where's Tsunoda going to finish?
In the points.
9th, I reckon. He'll get points, but not a lot.
9th, says JBL. John?
Oh, I'm going to go...
Ooh. Man, that would be so amazing when Visa cash up RB Formula 1 team. Maybe more Tsunoda start getting more points than Mercedes. Or finish the race before the Mercedes.
I'm going to go be different. I'm going to go 10th.
Wow, radically different. Thank you. There you go. Gosh, wow.
He's putting his neck
Hot
on the
off
line.
The press. You can't wait. That's the audience can't wait for this.
Oh, if that's happened, then we may get past Aston Martin in points.
Look, thank you very much indeed, as always, gents. We shall catch up post-race. Enjoy your time out there, though, won't you, JBL? Don't forget to take your duvet.
Will do. I'll bring you back some maple syrup, I guess.
He's done his research, John. He's done his research. Thanks as well to you, John. We'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Well, that just about does it for our look ahead at the Canadian Grand Prix. Thanks very much to JBL and to John, as always. And don't forget to like and subscribe and keep your comments coming in as well. We'll see you next time. But as always, thanks for watching.
Yeah, sure. Oh my god, the IndyCar 500. What a nightmare. And see. Start raining. Have everything new arrived in Formula 1? Man. No, the race clip about Esteban Ocon leaving Alpine, that's weird. Oh, fuck you, lightning strike. You ruin everything. Oh, did I pick you up the zombie stuff? Probably. Well, it's a good time to remember. And the stream done. Well, just look at that. The trees are gone because of lightning strikes. The trees that was placed once upon a time. Sometime after PewDiePie started playing Minecraft. Oh my gosh, so many lightning strikes. Also this tree. Rest in peace. Oh shit, I need to do that before I end it. Man, I hate fuck me, the sounds of all the cats. I really need to remove them. And one day kill off all the fucking chickens. Okay, here we stay. Then we need up with the we need to find how many fishes did I place down. Okay, let's see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it was 13. Okay. 300 and then minus 13, so 36. No, one fish from 1337. The famous 13. So we have 1,336 fishes in the collection, plus these fishes. Fuck did that come from? No chicken, please. Fuck me. I couldn't have placed. No. Who cares? Okay, let's see. I should move that one. To here. And then we should see. That will give 4. And then we place yeah, now it's ready to collect a lot of iron off stream. In the most boring way ever. Okay, 1036. Or 1336. Let's write that down. 1,336. Save. And then we pause. Oh my god. Fucking all the cats. And let's see. Yeah, and tomorrow. What will happen tomorrow? What day it will be? Oh shit. It's today for me. Wednesday. So. And still 2 days until practice in Formula 1. That's boring. Oh, maybe more news about Ocon. What he will do. Maybe news about what Alpine will do. What more could happen? Maybe something about Perez continue with 2-year contract with Red Bull. Oh shit, maybe something about Andy Newey. I don't know when the new rules for the cars come out, but maybe it will be soon. So Andy Newey, maybe we say he 100% will go to Williams. That would be so amazing if he did. I mean, IndyCar will also be in this weekend. But it's IndyCar, who cares? Oh shit, that I must see. Formula 2. When will they be back? Oh, they will be back in Spain. And Formula 3 also. Nice. Man, I need to make sure I don't miss watching that. Yeah, I have nothing more to say. So until